and gentlemen, let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, a Friday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Dylan Michaels. We had up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you. We will talk with Matt Derrick coming up an hour from now. Chiefs Digest, 41 is the Mike podcast. Talk some Chiefs football with Matt Derrick. Get his thoughts on a little rugby activity. And also there's a proposed draft at NFL.com or trade on the draft day at NFL.com. And they put 5-6 different draft day trades up, trades down by different teams and what would make the most sense, and the Chiefs are one of them. So we'll talk with Matt Derrick about that. I think the trade is interesting. I just don't know that I agree with the strategy behind who Chad Ryder at NFL.com thinks the Chiefs would be going up to get. So we'll talk about that. Certainly we'll get some thoughts on L'Jarius Sneed and what it means for the Chiefs, trying to get everybody's opinion on this, and some other things with Matt Derrick coming up in the 11 o'clock hour. See what else we get into with Matt. We will talk some college hoops with Ari Temkin. Love talking some college hoops with Ari Temkin, Sirius XM, Big 12 college sports, but just overall college sports as well, with the NCAA tournament going on and the Big 12 and Iowa State having a rough go of it last night and losing to Illinois, and now you've got Clemson and Bama. You got Illinois and UConn. You got Houston, Duke, Marquette, and NC State. Purdue taking on Gonzaga, Creighton, and Tennessee, and Cetro. Former Big 12 teams. Houston, first year in the Big 12, carrying the weight of the conference. Whether that matters or not, I hate the conference superiority conversation when it comes to the postseason because, I don't know, was the Big East the best conference in basketball this year? They certainly look like they have the best team in basketball right now. We'll talk about the dominance of UConn, what we're watching right now in a 2-year run. 2009 North Carolina was incredibly dominant. We've seen a Villanova team run through the tournament and just be dominant. I don't know that we've seen a team do what UConn is doing in the 9 games they have played, starting with last year's first-round game. We'll talk about that and also discuss sort of there are a couple of teams going tonight that have a certain philosophy about how they're building their teams, and a game we will watch on Saturday with UConn and Illinois have a certain strategy and how they have built their teams. So we'll talk about that as well. Ari Temkin coming up at noon. Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 sports director. We'll talk with him coming up about 12:30 or so. We got the cuts. We'll eliminate some sound in the bracket of sound. We got 4 teams that lost last night. We got 4 pieces of sound and audio that will be eliminated. And then on into the weekend. And on Monday when we talk to you, we'll know who is heading to the Final Four. Is it UConn? Did Illinois pull off an upset and win that game? I don't think Illinois has enough for UConn. And Bama and Clemson is a fun one because you've got, the semifinals in the college football playoff going on. Winner of this one heads on. Oh, what's that? Oh, it's basketball. Bama and Clemson in basketball? Well, bleep you guys. To hell with you. You guys are football schools. You don't get to have a basketball run to the Elite Eight and a Final Four, you jerks. That's not fair. What's fair about that? College sports is always supposed to be fair. That's what it's always been about. It's been about fair and equal footing. Come on. College sports, socialism, everybody gets a piece. I mean, like I didn't even realize I threw on a jacket this morning. I got a T-shirt and a jacket. Happens to be a Mizzou jacket. Now I'm looking at Clemson and Alabama, one of those who go to the Final Four of those damn football schools. Go to a Final Four, man. Unbelievable. Good for them. Good for Clemson. Good for, you know what? Yeah, not good for them. To heck with it. I'm not going to be magnanimous. I'm going to be bitter. I'm going to choose salt. My flavor today. 913-912-4810. And tonight should be some really, really fun games. Houston and Duke should be a blast. I don't know what to think about Marquette and NC State. I like the run that NC State is on. Those things are fun. Marquette looks really good. And part of me is rooting for Marquette because they beat WKU. And then part of me also was like, you know what? To heck with them too. Purdue and Gonzaga should just be an awesome, awesome matchup. And I can't wait for Tennessee-Creighton. Like, all four of the games tonight have real intrigue to them. Last night, Clemson-Arizona did not get the juices flowing. I was not excited about watching Clemson-Arizona. And even as the game was going on, I wasn't really – like, it was Clemson doing what I didn't think they would do. I thought Arizona would win. I didn't think Arizona would shoot as terribly as they did. And Caleb Love have the night that he did that certainly he will remember for a long time. R.J. Davis having the night that he did that he'll remember for a long time. Unfortunately, Grant Nelson for Alabama having the night that he did that he'll remember for a long time in a fortunate manner because of how good he was late. I mean, he was dynamite. A transfer, too, it's surprising because I was told by Kelvin Sampson and Shaka Smart that, you know, transfers and everything, like you build through freshmen, and transfers is sort of tough to put a team together with a number of transfers and everything. Tell that to the most dominant team we've seen the last couple of years. We've seen in a long time. I shouldn't even say the last couple of years, but the most dominant team the last couple of years that we've seen in a long time in UConn that has a number of transfers that are in their starting lineup. So we'll talk some college basketball today. Mick Schaefer, all of that stuff, and college basketball coming up tonight right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. And we have the games for you each and every year. We've got them this year as well. Sports Radio 810 and ESPN Kansas City. It's presented by Xfinity, Greenlight Dispensary, Hollywood Casino, Trailside RV. As terrible as my bracket is, and people love hearing about other people's brackets, that's the one thing I've come to know, especially with sports radio. We'll get into my fantasy team here in just a little bit. But as bad as my bracket is, there's a chance that I'll have 6 of 8 Elite 8 teams, but only a possible 2 of 4 Final Fours. Because I could have 6 of 8 Elite 8 teams, and 2 of the teams that I don't have in the Elite 8, also I'd go to the Final Four in Baylor and Kentucky. So very smart. I do have UConn, Illinois. I've got Bama. I've got Purdue taking on Tennessee, and I've got Houston playing Kentucky. I do not think Houston's going to play Kentucky on Sunday. That's for a fact. I have a real strong feeling about maybe missing on that one. But we'll see if John Calipari can come out and make adjustments. Spoiler alert. He can't. And he won't. And they're losing some guys to the transfer portal, too. A guy that they thought they were going to count on next year. And gone. Transfer portal. A couple days after they announced that he's returning. He gone. All right, 913-912-4810. We'll certainly talk some basketball today. Let's talk some Royals. We start with the loss yesterday, 4-1. And it's an odd feeling coming out of the game because there's so many different ways to present the conversation around the Royals because it's one of 162. There's 161 more of these games left to play. Cole Reagans was dynamite yesterday. A couple of 0-2 pitches that he probably went to bed thinking about. You know, as good as he was, 9 strikeouts, had 4 Ks in a row. But a couple of 0-2 pitches that got him that he'd love to have back. And we hear that all the time. Pitchers like, left that. I'd love to have that one back. Well, you can't. It's baseball. But that's why you hope your offense can bail you out from time to time. And he didn't even need bailing out. He gave up 2 runs over the 6 innings, did Cole Reagans. 9 Ks. So there's a standpoint of how good Cole Reagans was. The offense doing what they did against a really good pitcher. I don't want to act like we are just wrapping up a turd and calling it a Christmas present by saying, Pablo Lopez is really good. Well, the offense scored 1 run. Yeah, but Pablo Lopez is really good. Okay, so here's another excuse based on what we saw last year just carrying over into this year. Number of guys in the lineup, okay, same old, same old. And that's where the difficulty of yesterday's game and opening day of what it feels and what the conversation is that there are 161 more of these. There was a different feel to yesterday, a different excitement level, yet the end of the game felt the same. And I've talked about, where I think the Royals are going to be this year. I have them at, 77 and 85, a few games away from being 500. Talking about 4 wins away from a 500 season. But 77 and 85 does not get you into the postseason. So I do not expect this team to be a playoff team. I hope they could win the division. I put money on them winning the division. Not money that I've already spent. I've not done that. But, you take a chance. You throw some darts, right? There's people have picked the Royals to win the division. But it's also one game. It's also just one game. But the feel of that one game is hard to wipe away. And thank goodness there's a day off today. And I know why they do it. You got bad weather. You get a day off Friday. You move it to the next day. Phillies, Braves, bad weather yesterday, postponed, boom, they got a game today. So now they got a 3-game series this weekend. You've got that built in so you're not already behind the 8 ball and figuring out makeup dates and travel schedules and things like that. So I understand that aspect of it. Doesn't make it anymore, especially when the weather is so beautiful. You'd love to have a game today for the Royals to see them go back out there, but they don't. And you'd love to have a game today where it's not against one of the best pitchers in baseball to see, what you can do against that guy. I mean, or against a different guy for the Twins. I mean, Pablo Lopez last year, had a couple of games where it was like he pitched yesterday, only they were awesome offenses he went up against. I mean, the Phillies last year, he had 6 innings, no earned runs, and 7 strikeouts against the Phillies. Fantastic offense. Against the Rays last year, he had a game where he went 7 innings, 1 earned run, and 6 strikeouts. Rays, fantastic offense last year. So it happens. But it is trying to eliminate the same old feeling of the same old Royals because it is just one game. After that game yesterday, I start thinking about, what the schedule is. And we talked to Les Norman about it on Tuesday, that coming out of the gates, they have a tough opening few series. They mix in a series against the White Sox, but other than that, it's a tough opening month. They are going up against expected to be playoff teams. The Twins aren't a great team in baseball, but they're picked to win the Central. They're the betting favorite to win this division. So Vegas looks at them as the best team in the division. And it's a decent chance to sort of compare yourself against them. I don't see a team out there with the Twins that is unbeatable. I don't see a team out there with the Twins that you're going, good God, it's the Dodgers. I mean, they got Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts, and they got Shohei Ohtani right there in the middle of the lineup. I mean, it's the Yankees. They added Juan Soto with Aaron Judge. Like, come on, man, this is ridiculous. No, it's a team that has some nice players, and their star went down yesterday, and it sucks for them. We saw a couple of things happen. Royce Lewis went down. Justin Steele for the Cubs last night. Their ace. I mean, you want to talk about bad news today. The Cubs are reeling already. They've got a thin starting rotation, and their ace messed up his hamstring trying to field a bunt. Could barely walk off the field. And that guy's going to be out a while trying to get that hamstring, being a pitcher. We talk about like arms and shoulders and, upper bodies and things like that for pitchers, but kind of need your hamstring to push off, to stretch, to do all those things as a pitcher. And when Steele, reaches down for a bunt and immediately falls to the ground and holds his hamstring and can't barely walk off the field, that's a starting staff that was already injured and thin, and now they lost their guy. It is not that for the Royals. So again, maybe it's lipstick on a pig. Maybe it's trying to package something that isn't there. But it's one game, and it is weird that in a 17-game season in the NFL, we have a conversation on Friday after the Chiefs lose to the Lions about, hey, I don't feel all that bad. Like, it sucks that they have some drop passes and everything. And Andy Reid saying, he felt bad because he put Kadarius Toney in some rough spots. And our response was, you put him in on the field and he was open? It was a bad spot to put Kadarius Toney open? No, the bad spot was having Kadarius Toney being the guy you're throwing the ball to. Travis Kelce injured. Chris Jones conversation. Those are the things we were having. The defense, how good it was, even without Chris Jones. We had an idea of what the defense could be when you got Chris Jones back. We had an idea early on of what the season was going to be with the wide receivers. But that's 17 games. We always overreact to opening day because it's fun. Because it's opening day. It counts as one. Let's hear from Matt Quattrero. It's clip number 2. Matt Quattrero talking about the start from his ace and then the follow-up about the one run by his offense.
His stuff was good. Get the two outs on 3 pitches in the first. Guy put a good swing on the 0-2 fastball for the home run, and Correa is obviously a tough out for a lot of pitchers, and so he battled him, got the 2-out RBI, and he was really good. Gave up a couple runs. We'll take that every time out.
Do you feel like there were some missed chances offensively for you guys, especially the runners in scoring position?
Not many. I mean, you got to tip your cap to Lopez and Stewart and Jax there. I mean, we didn't have too many opportunities. The leadoff double from MJ. Renfroe put a good swing on that ball. It's a nice play that Correa makes, but yeah, we didn't mount too much. Lopez is tough.
I love the honesty there, by the way. Feel like you had some opportunities there that you not many. No, they weren't. I mean, the highlight of the game was the first inning, leading off with Garcia catching one from Lopez and depositing over the left field fence. Tying it 1-1, you're like, all right, there we go. Garcia getting a fly ball. Getting that launch angle with Michael. Nice. And then the next one was, 4 Ks in a row for Cole Reagans? That's kind of where it ended, unfortunately. 913-912-4810. Text says, the offense is trash, and somehow the bullpen is worse than that. I don't think so. I mean, the bullpen, you didn't even have your best guys go yesterday in the bullpen, which is certainly a conversation and a discussion that we can have with Matt Quattrero's usage of the guys coming out of the pen. Angel Zerpa comes out and pitches the 8th. I was shocked that he went to Angel Zerpa. I disagreed with it, but I'm happy it happened because that's a pretty big confidence boost. It's a guy that I didn't expect to be a high-leverage guy, certainly early on with the number of veterans you have in the bullpen. I didn't think in a one-run game the trio of guys coming out for the 7th, 8th, 9th was going to be Nick Anderson, Angel Zerpa, and Chris Stratton. That was not what I had on my bingo card. I wouldn't have expected any of those guys to pitch in a one-run game. They feel like multi-inning guys. But that was simply one game. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. I do want to talk about that and if there is something to glean from it and moving forward. And certainly we will talk about the NCAA tournament and what took place last night. And I want to look at the dominance of UConn and the construction of a couple of teams as well. 913-912-4810. We'll get into some more of your texts as well with the disappointment of yesterday, the excitement in the air, and yet the end of the game feeling like the same old, same old. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. 913-912-4810 is the text line. We'll get into some college basketball here in just a little bit, but I do want to talk about, last year, while the Royals were struggling to a 100-plus loss season, whether we felt like, this doesn't feel like a 100-loss team. I don't know. We would talk about like different moves that were made by Matt Quatraro year one as a manager, and we'd discuss those things after a game, and it would be why are you caring about what Matt Quatraro's doing when this team is 20 games under 500 right now. And my point was at the time, let's just keep track to see the different moves that he makes in year one, because if they are in a position to where they're a few games out of a wild card and we're talking about some moves or mistakes or good moves, not everything has to be a mistake. It can be a great move by that particular guy. And just something to keep an eye on. So we'll talk some NCAA basketball here in just a little bit. But text comes in, 913-912-4810, says they better not score like 5 runs and then lose on Saturday, or else they are just the same old Royals. Yeah, that would be the case if they lose 4-1, in which your starting pitcher goes out there in 6 innings, gives up 2 earned runs, and you give them 1 run of run support. And then the next game they go out and score 7 but lose like 9-7. Yeah, they don't have that feel. Just flip those and you're 1-1, but that just does not. You don't get to do that. Text says it'll be another slow start, another 7 or 8 wins in April. The season will be over by the draft. Look, the Royals have earned that. They've earned that pessimism. They've earned that lack of trust that is there. They've earned that immediate reaction of the beginning of the movie Major League, where they're bleepy again. They're so bleepy. They're the bleepy again. That's it's what they've earned over the number of years. I do want to talk about the bullpen usage. I was surprised that it went Nick Anderson and then Angel Zerpa. Maybe more surprised Angel Zerpa in the 8th and then Chris Stratton in the 9th. I thought they would be multi-inning guys. But let's hear from Matt Quatraro. He was asked about going to Chris Stratton in the 9th. He ends up giving up a couple of runs in a 1-run game with the heart of your lineup coming up. Ends up being a 3-run game because of whether it's some luck or it's just randomness of baseball or it's Royals. Regardless, a 1-run deficit turned into a 3-run deficit. Chris Stratton goes out there his first time with the Royals and has a pass ball and a couple of dribblers and all this other stuff, whatever. But here is Matt Quatraro. He's asked about Chris Stratton and then also follow up with the usage of Angel Zerpa and the other guys that he went to.
Chris Stratton's going to get big outs for us throughout the year. There's no question. Today, a couple check swing rollers. One moves the runners up, one scores a guy. I mean, you can't defense that. So, but, gave up a couple runs there. Obviously, we feel better being down 1 in the heart of the order, but regardless, we got to come back there if we get a chance.
Curious if you could take us through the decision to bring in Zerpa there in the 8th, down 1, or in the 8th inning.
Yeah, Zerp, we have a lot of confidence in Zerp. I mean, he's going to pitch in a lot of different roles. We know he's versatile. We know he bounces back well. Obviously, you hope you get a 1-2-3 inning. Correa is going to be a tough matchup for him right out of the gate. But then as the lefties were mounting and Castro is a switch hitter that we feel good with Zerpa against him. So I have all the confidence in the world. He's going to throw strikes. He's going to make them beat him.
Here's my takeaway from that. Well, first, I said it at the beginning of the show that I was really surprised when he went to Zerpa in the 8th. Nervous, but happy that he did because Zerpa got it done. And is that, more confidence instilled in him if you feel like you've already got some high leverage or hopefully high leverage 1-inning guys in Schreiber and MacArthur and Will Smith, that if Angel Zerpa can be that guy. But my takeaway from Angel Zerpa in the 8th, as opposed to whether it be Schreiber or MacArthur that's expected to be the setup man, and I know they were down by 1, whatever, is roles established or not established. He went with the matchup in the 8th inning rather than this is the guy we go to in high leverage late inning situations. Now we want this guy, hitting from the right side. We got some lefties coming up. We'll throw Zerpa out there, and we got this guy that's a switch hitter, and we want him batting from the right. We want him being right-handed, as opposed to I'm gonna go throw Schwarber. Boy, I'd love if Schwarber was on this team, not as a pitcher, but as a hitter. We got Schreiber or MacArthur in the 8th inning. Let's start to get that feel down. It's a high leverage situation. Day off tomorrow. Let's get this guy out there, and he's going to be in this position. 9th inning. Let's go Will Smith here. See if we got Will Smith down by 1. Let's get Will Smith out there. Make sure this is going to be a 1-run game. Let's get jiggy with it. That'll be the last time I do that. All right, I'm lying. But that's an early indication, right? This bullpen is massively different than a year ago. From opening day, not necessarily the end of the season, because MacArthur was really good at the end of the season and then comes into this year, and he was my pick to lead the Royals in saves this year. The obvious answer would be Will Smith, but I went off the board. Not necessarily off the board. I went with the one that was also on the board. It was like Will Smith or MacArthur. Which one you choosing? All right, I'll take not the odds-on favorite, but the second best odds. I'll go with MacArthur on that one. But the bullpen just massively different from a year ago. Opening day bullpen last year to this year, all new guys. Not one person that opened up in the bullpen last year on opening day is on this year's opening day roster bullpen. Tech says Will Smith was warming up in the bottom of the 8 just in case the Royals took the lead or tied the game. Yeah, and I think he would have absolutely gone to him if they tied it or got the lead, because then obviously if Will Smith's out there, then he's going to be your closer. The Zerpa one, to me, Zerpa over Stratton. Like Stratton out there in the 9th, okay, great, whatever. He's getting a paycheck. He's one of the new guys. He's been in those positions before. He's had success in his career. You weren't throwing some random dude out there that, continues to get beat up, and it's like, yeah, okay, well, this guy sucks, but hey, who am I going to go to? Who else is out there? Old Mother Hubbard and only Vaughn's in the cupboard, right? Another Major League reference. That's 2 of them already today. It's baseball season. To me, but Zerpa's one that we'll keep an eye on, because that was matchup driven and not necessarily, here are my list of high leverage guys. It's a 1-run game, down by 1. I'm going to my high leverage guys. Hopefully, that's the case. Tech says situational hitting was abysmal last year. It has to get better this year if they're going to be competitive. Melendez with the leadoff double, and then nobody can even advance him. That's true. Renfroe was a couple of, and again, this is where you look at it and say, all right, are you trying to dress up the 4-1 loss? Renfroe was a couple of feet away from having 2 hits. Correa's a phenomenal shortstop, made a couple of big plays, and if that thing sneaks through on the left side, yeah. I will say, though, MJ Melendez 113 off the bat. That can get you excited, right? I mean, if you're not, if you want to find and search and find the positives, MJ Melendez first hit, 113 off the bat. Cole Reagan's 9 strikeouts. 6 innings, 9 Ks. And Bobby Witt playing phenomenal shortstop. If you want to find the negatives that are there, certainly you can find them. The 9th inning that felt very royally, that, it's a pass ball. It looked like the ball may have hit Correa's foot on the ground ball. And a dribbler here. And infield hit. Shoot. You get the ground ball, but it's hit too soft, so you can't double them up. That was very royally. Like there's been a lot of conversations around it's just a touch here, just a little bit there. Oh man, you lost another game, 5-4. Just unfortunate. Just needed a couple things to go your way. Well, you know what? Don't put yourself in that position. So yeah, there was some royally things. If you want to take some negativity away from it, Salvi, I hope can be Salvi, but if Freddie Fermin is getting opportunities and is hitting, you got to wonder at some point, again, this is one game, but you got to wonder at some point if the Royals and Matt Quatraro make a decision and say, Fermin's giving us the best chance to win. I hope that's not the case, because that would mean Salvi is, hitting and not swinging at sliders in the other batter's box. But it's Salvi. That's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. He's done it his whole career. He's never. I would throw every pitch would be a slider on the outside part of the plate. Every single pitch to Salvi. But I love the guy, and hopefully, things get rolling for him again. It's just simply one game. I think there's certainly some negatives to take away. There's certainly some positives, too. All right, we'll talk about the NCAA tournament on the other side of the break. UConn's incredible, dominant run, and if Illinois has anything for UConn coming up on Saturday late afternoon. We'll take a timeout, come back, more Zone next. Jess. 41 is the Mike podcast. The Yukon Huskies. I don't know the last time we've seen something this dominant. If they go on to win the national championship this year, obviously we've seen back-to-back national champions before, and the most recent one being Florida. But the 9 wins that they have, let's hear from Dan Hurley and what the run has been for them in the national championship last year and now getting to the Elite Eight, winning 3 games this year. Here he is on their margin of victory.
I mean, we suck at winning close games, so you got to go with the alternative. No, I think the group, we got a killer instinct. We play every possession with great desperation. We got NBA-level players that are incredibly well prepared. And, obviously, we're very comfortable in tournament play. We're hard to prepare for.
He jokes about they suck at winning close games. Their only losses this year, they've got 3 of them. They lost to Creighton by 19. They lost to Seton Hall by 15, and they lost to Kansas by 4 on the road. So I don't know that they suck at winning close games. They beat Villanova by 1. They don't play many close games, to be honest with you. They certainly don't do it in the tournament. They beat St. John's by 5, 95-90, in a fantastic basketball game where St. John's was trying to make the tournament, and people thought that effort was good enough to get them in the tournament. It was not. They've got 9 wins. Dylan, I'll put you on the spot. Maybe you know, maybe you don't. People can play along at home or on the drive, whatever, on the podcast. You know what the average margin of victory for UConn is in the 9 wins for them? Maybe
tournament?
In the tournament. In these 9, so 6 games last year and the 3 games this year, combined what the average margin of victory is.
12.9.
You can almost double that. 23 points.
Wow.
23 points is their average margin of victory this year in the 9 wins. The scores have averaged out. This includes 2 Elite 8 games, a Final Four national championship, 2 Sweet 16 games. The final scores have averaged 80 to 57. The 9 games they've played, 2 teams have reached 60 points. Twice. Iona, the first game they played in this 9-game stretch last year in the first round, 16-seed Iona, and Arkansas. They have gone, in their 6 games, or their 9 games, I should say, 6 games in a row without allowing a team to get to 60 points. And they're scoring in the 80s. They are winning by a margin of 23 in their 9 games. And they just beat San Diego State by 30. By the way, if you're wondering, San Diego State was a top 10 defense in KenPom before they put 80 on them. They were number 4 last year. They put 76 on them.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Dylan Michaels. We head up to 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Ari Timken coming up at noon. Some college sports conversation, some college basketball conversation. 4 more games underway tonight. Should be some fun ones. This is, to me, tonight was the night I was looking most forward to in the Sweet 16 matchups. Last night, there were certainly some good matchups. North Carolina, Alabama, I was expecting to be a lot of fun. It was pretty good, yeah. Illinois, Iowa State, I expected it to be, a slower game with Illinois wanting to slow it down, and they did. And Iowa State wanting to slow it down, and they did. And Iowa State struggling so much offensively sort of cost them in that game. And then we said yesterday that I didn't think San Diego State had much for UConn, that I didn't think it would be all that close. And I took the, 11.5 last night for UConn. And I did an alternate line of minus 29.5. I did not do that. But UConn ended up winning by 30 against San Diego State. And by the way, San Diego State, the last 2 tournaments, they're 7-2. Their 2 losses are to UConn. They're 7-0. San Diego State is when they don't play UConn in the NCAA tournament.
It's the Bills of basketball, basically.
That's right.
Yep.
That's exactly right. Don't play. UConn is Patrick Mahomes. That's what it is. Dan Hurley's a Royals fan.
Going for back-to-back.
I don't know why. Yeah, that's exactly right. I don't know why he can't be a Chiefs fan, but he's a Royals fan. So close enough. Let's bring in Matt Derrick from Chiefs Digest. 41 is the Mike podcast. He's presented by Cap One Lending. The Freedom Loan at Cap One Lending, the exclusive loan, helps you pay your home off in less than half the time, gives you access to your home's equity without having to refinance. Go to caponelending.com. Matt, welcome into the show. What's up, brother?
Just trying to perk along on a Friday, Jason, and you nailed those games yesterday, man. You were all over that.
Thank you. I have no idea tonight. I feel good about well, you know what? I feel good about Marquette over NC State. That's probably the one that I feel most confident in. Tennessee Creighton should be a lot of fun. But I think Purdue will take care of Gonzaga as well. But Houston Duke, I think, will come down to the wire, and Tennessee and Creighton. If Tennessee can shoot it, they can win, but Creighton's got so much firepower. We'll see. We'll see what happens tonight. I'll probably be wrong on all 4 of those. So that's the beauty of the tournament, Matt, the beauty of the tournament. You've got all 8 teams available still in the Elite 8 and all 4 Final Fours and a national champion in your bracket.
Yeah, I had to go with the Baylor Bears. You know that.
I know. I know. You had Baylor. Yeah, we had to eliminate Baylor and their loss a few days ago with your fun soundbite with out of Fat Bear Week. But it's going to be Alabama or Clemson coming out of Fat Bear Week. So it's going to be a tiger or an elephant coming out of the bear bracket. So,
and now I have to start working on a whole new set of innuendos for the coming years.
Oh, you got a full year to do it. All right, you got plenty of time to work on those, Matt. Come on, you do them organically. It's not even like you try. It just happens here on the show. That's what's great. And who knows what makes the NCAA tournament next year? We've got clips that made the tournament on the weekend of. You and Sterling talking about L'Jarius Snake. Slides right into the tournament last second. Made a great. It was the NC State of. It was the NC State. Of sound bites. Now, I shouldn't say you and Sterling talking about that. It was just Sterling. You're guilty by association.
And
I apologize.
We've added another one already for the next
I
year's
was going to
tournament.
say, Jason sliding L'Jarius Snake into the conversation is definitely going to make next year's bracket.
Sterling started it. Okay,
That might be like a 3-seed at worst.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's a long time. KU was preseason number 1. They ended up being a 4-seed. You never know what happens in these things. Matt Derrick is our guest. All right, Matt, let's talk some rugby. It's been the story this week. I saw a tweet, and I don't remember where it was from, but scrolling through, that said they just spent a little time in Wales and said it was the story in Wales was this rugby player not only joining the NFL, but joining the NFL with the two-time, back-to-back, three-time in the last 5 years, but back-to-back Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Huge, massive story over there. Fun story over here, and mainly in Kansas City. People outside of Kansas City, I don't know that they care all that much, but what do you make of this and the Chiefs going down the international route with the new rules in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, it is a pretty big story. I mean, especially in the UK and Europe, because this his deciding, to enter the NFL and to leave rugby was a really big deal, because he announced the decision about to do it and to bypass it right before the beginning of the Six Nations Championships and that selection process, and that's a big deal over there, because it's. I mean, rugby is obviously a much bigger event over there and everything. But there was a Netflix documentary about the Six Nations this year, and that ended up being a big storyline in it. So if you want to see a little bit more and hear about him, look it up on Netflix.
I'll check it out.
It's on there, and they have a segment about him and deciding to forego it and the ensuing chaos that caused, because he's obviously been even though he's pretty young, he's been a big player for Wales and rugby, and I can't believe we're talking about this much about rugby right now. Especially since none of us know the rules or know what's going on, Jason. I mean, everybody's been seeing the highlights this week and breaking it down, and none of us knows what any of it means.
I went through a stretch and a phase where I was watching the All Blacks when they would have their matches, especially against any team from Australia. I'd be watching those matches, and I came to really enjoy it and appreciate it. So starting to understand the rules to a degree in rugby and some of the penalties and the fouls and things like that. So I did go through a stretch to where I was checking out and watching rugby when it was on, and I find it to be an enjoyable game. I just don't have the time with all the other things I'm doing to really embrace in the becoming a huge fan of a team to where I'm watching everything. But I appreciate it. It's a fun sport to watch. It's so closely related to football, obviously, because football came from rugby. But I'm gonna have to check out the Six Nations Full Contact. I see that 8 episodes on Netflix. It came out this year. Interesting. Okay, so it's a 2024. Yeah. Did you watch this before they signed him, or did you watch this after they signed him?
Only after they signed him.
Okay.
So no, I can't say that I was up completely up on that.
No, but still, look at you doing your research and letting me know about it. So I'll get around to the research there with that. Do you? This is you throw a dart. And the international part of this, I saw some people react when the news came out. He signed his 3-year contract. People like, 3 years? Like, well, he's UDFA. It's typically the contract that they signed. There's some signing bonuses. Typically, there's some guaranteed money that goes along with it. This would be your prototypical sort of contract. But do you think there's much of a chance with this, or this is the Chiefs throwing a dart, seeing if it works, and they've also got the international spot that they can take advantage of with the NFL trying to expand their footprint?
Yeah, that's obviously the key part of it. I mean, is that right now you get a roster exemption, so he doesn't count against the 90-player roster. It's new this year. It used to be that only a division or two were selected, and they've been expanding it year by year. And the Chiefs last year were one of the divisions that was selected, so they had an international player last year, Chu Godric. From Nigeria. He's now been signed to the 90-player roster for this year, so he doesn't count as that exemption anymore. They'll only have it for Lewis, but I'm now gonna have to remember how to pronounce his last name and everything. But
Zammit.
There you go.
Zammit. Rees Zammit.
Rees Zammit. But
almost like Lee Summit,
And I am not going to shorten it yet, because you cannot give a an initial nickname and everything like that to an international player who's not even on the full 98-man roster. If he's on the exemption, you got to wait before you start giving cool little nicknames to people. So
what nickname would you give him if it was already time?
Well, it's not. I mean, I'm not. I'm definitely not calling him LRZ. I mean, no, that's not. That's
Okay.
we're way too early on that. So I don't even know. I mean, I'm sure he probably already has a nickname. So
Well, here's the thing: the Chiefs have sort of moved on from the hyphenated names, unless they bring back Edwards-Helaire. MVS and CEH have moved on, so you can't really have LRZ. So that's a problem now.
oh, don't worry. They'll find some more hyphenated names.
Okay.
I mean, Chiefs are big on the law firm names. So they'll get one.
And Udike Uzama, yep, FAU.
you go.
So there you go. So they lost MVS and CEH, so you do have to replenish the initials with FAU and then now LRZ, which is what people are going to call them now, Matt, because you said don't.
And they will absolutely draft another hyphenated last name player now because you got to get those numbers up.
That's right. That's right.
But,
You got to find that guy. Got to find that guy in the draft boards and circle it, and then place some money on that person ending up with the Chiefs. It's just obvious.
But but back to Reese Summit. I mean, I think you have to tap the brakes a little bit. I mean, just as far as expectations go, because I mean, football's completely brand new to him. I mean, does it look like there's some skills that can translate? Absolutely, sure. But I get a lot of people are really excited at the prospect of seeing him on the field and maybe the new return rules and everything, and maybe that's a way that the Chiefs could really take advantage of his skill set. But I find it kind of an irony in that everybody's getting really excited about that for a guy who has never played football before, maybe being on the end of receiving kicks, because it seems like we've kind of had an experience with a guy who's played a lot of football that had trouble receiving kicks. I mean, it's not the easiest thing in the world, as has been proven time and time again. So let's be cautious as far as expectations. Maybe he'll be able to catch a football. I don't know. I'm sure he can because rugby is a different sport and it's a bigger ball, so he should be able to hold on to this thing. But I say let's let him get on the field and actually see what he can do. They're very. I'm not even sure if I can remember for sure the last international player who didn't get an exemption. Who didn't. Because once if they sign to the practice squad under the exemption beginning of the season, that they can't join the active roster all year long. So then it becomes basically a redshirt season. So we'll see what happens. But will he play this year? I don't know. I mean, there have been there's a handful of international players around the league who have moved on and graduated to become active roster players. Will he become one of them? I don't know.
If I temper my enthusiasm for him anymore, I would forget his name. That's where I am on him. The story is interesting. I just don't expect anything from him ever in a Chiefs uniform, to be quite honest with you. So there you go. That's there's my enthusiasm and excitement for him. So I hope I didn't just rain on everybody's parade. That was having some fun with it. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I saw some of the highlights and everything. They were showing his workouts, and I'm like, looks like a rugby player trying to play football. So what it looks like to me. But we'll find out. They get the exemption, so why not? Why not? Take a chance. He's 23 years old and all of that stuff. And I'll see.
No downside whatsoever.
Yeah, none whatsoever. Is there a downside? Well, there is one downside, at least, to L'Jarius Sneed being on a different team. It's that he's not on the Chiefs. But do you fall on this being disappointed in the overall deal? Once we know what the contract is now for L'Jarius Sneed and what he was looking for, probably to stay with the Chiefs, the same numbers. We know what the compensation is and what the Chiefs may do now. Where do you land on this deal with L'Jarius Sneed? And you like it, don't like it, indifferent? Where are you on this move?
Love it for L'Jarius Sneed because I did not think that he would be able to get that kind of contract. Certainly the talk and what we were discussing, I think last week, going back even to the combine, was the idea that around the league was, hey, L'Jarius Sneed, if he can get 15, 16 million, it's probably a pretty good deal. Anything more than that, is a big win. And so getting the contract that he did and matching pretty much what Jalen Johnson got from the Bears, who, as we've talked about, is 2.5 years younger, and been also probably accoladed just as much as L'Jarius has. It's a pretty good deal for me. I mean, he got the money that he wanted, and I think you got to be happy for him. But the compensation was pretty much what we talked about last week too, Jason. I mean, as far as what the Chiefs could possibly expect, the corner market has dramatically changed in the last few years. The return is pretty much what the Dolphins gave up for a 28-year-old Jalen Ramsey. I mean, I don't think you can complain about that. If you get trade comp that's exactly for a corner, that's what Jalen Ramsey got. I mean, I don't know you can necessarily complain. I mean, corner is not receiver, so you weren't going to get a Tyreek Hill kind of haul. It's not an edge rusher, so you're not going to get what you gave up for Frank Clark. I mean, there's just those comparisons are tough. I mean, and I think that all along, I mean, I never thought that the Chiefs were going to be able to get more than a second at best. And as the process went along, and then you really saw what the market looked like, then it was like, okay, no, third is probably about the best. And if they can get more than a third, they've done really well. So I think the Chiefs got compensation-wise what they could have expected. The only way that they could have gotten more was if there were more teams involved. But honestly, at the end, it looks like there was only one team. And the Chiefs were probably lucky in that because I don't know that the Titans really know what they're doing right now. So they were probably lucky to have a team with more money than brains.
God, I wish I had more money than brains. I probably do, actually. Never mind. That's not saying much, but I do have more money than brains.
I mean, if
I don't have much money.
Anyway,
I mean,
they found the perfect team, as far as being able to do it. And no knock against L'Jarius. I mean, we really like him. Obviously, I've discussed that before. I mean, I'm a big L'Jarius Sneed fan, but and his contract. Hey, if you go the full 4 years, once again, the last 2 years of that would be covering Trent McDuffie's 5th-year option and the first year of his free agency. And that's the other piece of the puzzle was that the Chiefs couldn't sign L'Jarius Sneed to a 4-year contract like that when they know that 2 years of that they want to be paying Trent McDuffie that kind of money.
Well, and you talk about the compensation and having a team that's got more money than brains, and the Titans. I'd looked at the Craig Stout, what he put together of the draft compensation historically since the new CBA in 2011, 12, whenever that was, and what cornerbacks were bringing back. And the most recent one, you mentioned Jalen Ramsey, a 28-year-old getting a third-rounder back. They got Hunter Long, but, that's fine. But they got a third-rounder back. And then Russell Douglas, in the middle of the season, the Buffalo Bills gave up a third-rounder for him, and he's 29 years old. Difference being, that the total cap hit for Russell Douglas and the Bills for the time he spent last year with them and this upcoming season is going to be $4 million total. That's the cap hit for a half a season last year and all of next year. He's 3.3 against the cap. So they gave up a third rounder for a 29-year-old cornerback in which the cap hit is $3.5 million next year. The Titans gave up a third rounder and then swapped sevenths for a guy whose cap hit is going to be massive over a few years in getting Sneed. Sneed is better than Russell Douglas, but the compensation and then the contract make it interesting, and I am glad the Titans were able to do that because do you think there was a chance, Matt? And you know what? I'm not even going to ask it. Do you think there was a chance? Because we talked about it on Friday, now that I'm looking back at the notes. Let me ask it this way. If the Titans weren't out there with more money than brains, what's the likelihood of the Chiefs just – if they couldn't find any other partner, what's the likelihood of the Chiefs just simply taking the franchise tag off of L'Jarius Sneed? You mentioned it as an option, saying last Friday, hey, people need to acknowledge this is something that could happen. What would be the likelihood now that we know compensation and the money and all of that stuff?
I think higher than you would expect. I mean, I don't think now that this, and we say it's done. I mean, technically it's not done. They're still crossing the T's and dotting the I's. So technically, right now, L'Jarius Sneed's still on the Chiefs. Trade has not been consummated and gone through the NFL wire yet. So, I mean, that's why we're saying it's done. It's been going on 6 days, and we're still waiting for these teams to make it all official.
6 days later, not consummated. That's interesting.
I don't expect anything that's holding it up. And there's no indication that it's physical or anything like that. It's probably just the slow wheels of the NFL rolling, causing the whole thing to kind of collapse a little bit. But I don't get the sense whatsoever that the Chiefs had any plans of L'Jarius playing under that tag this year and that cap number. So once again, it's the same situation with Chris Jones last year. I mean, they were hamstrung with the cap number because they weren't planning on carrying it all the way up till week 1 of the season. And it prevented them from doing some things that they wanted, whether it was signing some guys of their own and extending some contracts, whether it was trying to bring in some veterans like a DeAndre Hopkins. They were absolutely frozen, and they did not want to be frozen again this year. So if the market fell apart and there was no third-round pick to be held out there for L'Jarius Sneed and nobody was willing to pay him $19 million a year, I think that absolutely either the price would have dropped even further, so the Chiefs would have shipped him for a fourth, or they would have taken the tag off, because I just don't get the impression that beyond the draft that they were really interested in carrying that 19.8 any further than they had to.
All I'm thinking about now is Let It Go from Frozen, since that's what you talked about with the Chiefs. So that song.
Now I'm going to be thinking about it too. Thank you, Jason.
Hey, Matt, don't let them in. Don't let them see.
No,
be the good girl you always have to be.
Yeah, you can't sing it because now
conceal.
I've finally gotten it out of my head, and
don't let them know. Well, now they know.
I was going to say, you start singing it, you probably can't put it on the podcast.
Yeah, it's too close. I had to cut his mic because I don't want any copyright issues here.
And I'm back. Let it go. All right. Matt Derrick is our guest. We will move on from the Frozen soundtrack. But the Chiefs were frozen. Hey, now that they are unfrozen and they've got a little cap space to work with, will they go out and sign an actual free agent now? Because the moves that they have made, Matt, as you know, Irv Smith and Hollywood. Everybody else is re-signed. So do they bring somebody else in that was on a different team last year? Or is it they'll bring back Michael Dana, they'll bring back Donovan Smith, and go that route for some other free agents they may sign?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, the odds are that they'll sign somebody. I mean, will it necessarily be a huge name? Maybe not, but I would still anticipate that they'll add another free agent or two. I mean, even before the draft, I think I don't think they would mind adding some depth along the offensive line, particularly as a tackle. I think once again they probably wouldn't mind bringing in an edge rusher. Are these guys that would necessarily? I mean, and if Mike Dana is one of those guys, I mean that's not that's not an external free agent, but I think that would be a huge addition, obviously, keeping him in the fold. So there's probably a few, and I think once again they would be looking at maybe some of the Drew Tranquill, Mike Edwards type veterans, some guys out there that. One thing of interest to me is that there's still a lot of great safeties out there, and by great I mean guys great additions. If they came in and were your number 3 safety, you'd be like, dang, that's pretty cool to get that guy as your number 3 safety. But it's a matter of waiting for some prices to come down and everything. So we'll see. I mean, I think there's a good chance that they would still be looking to bring in a veteran at a couple of different spots. But we are in kind of that lull now that because you've got a lot of guys who are probably out there who didn't get the market that they anticipated and are still holding out hope. There's a few teams with money who obviously could make them some offers, so maybe that's why that they're waiting to see what happens. But and then there'll be another wave after the draft, and that's that's when Donovan Smith signed last year. So, I think over the next 6 weeks, there's definitely some more names that will be coming in beyond the draft. I don't think they're done with free agency, but we are in a little bit of a lull right now.
Is there a possibility that Michael Dana's market is depressed because there's a wink, wink, nod, nod gentleman's agreement once we release this cap space with L'Jarius Sneed? We'll bring you back, Michael?
Maybe that is the situation. Maybe they've told him, what they're willing to pay, and that's been better so far than anything he's found out there. Hey, maybe he's one of the exceptions who's like, hey, I'd rather take, less money to stay in KC than I would get elsewhere. Don't know what the situation is for sure. My anticipation would be that, one is just that maybe the market didn't materialize the way that, that Dana and his camp hoped for.
Yeah.
I think there was a big expectation mid-season that, he was going to be in line for a pretty good payday, but his numbers weren't as productive in the second half. I don't think that's a reflection on any drop-off on him. I think it was just more of maybe circumstances and luck, because I think he was consistent all season on film. Maybe the numbers weren't there, but I think he was still the same player. And once again, I mean, it's interesting because he, I think, has a different value in the Kansas City defense than some others, because I think he's a perfect fit for Joe Cullen.
Yeah.
As far as just flexibility and versatility, that's not valued with every team. And he is a super flexible, 4-3 defensive end. So if you're not running a 4-3 where you like to rotate guys, hey, Mike Dana doesn't have as much value to you. But the Chiefs, he has tremendous value.
Is there a player out there, and I mean, I would guess there's probably a player out there, but when talking about bringing in an actual free agent that was on another team and not just re-signing a player, one of the things about Drue Tranquill, and we have found this out now after the fact, he's been willing to have some fun at the Chargers' expense. When we had him on the air and joked about the fact that his phone was at 3% and he's boycotting anything to do with Chargers, and that's why his phone was that low. And he joked about it. Said, "Yeah, nothing. I'm not having no Chargers in my life right now." And then at the parade said that there's nothing like this in L.A. It's nothing like this feeling. And then when he had his press conference, Matt, after re-signing, saying that he fell back in love with football, that childlike love and passion for football when he got to the Chiefs. That, to me, I think that is vital when, you're winning and you have success, to bring in guys that then have that hunger to, I want it just as bad. These guys are addicted to winning, right? They're addicted to success, and they want to go out there. And Drue Tranquill said, odd feeling that I want a Super Bowl now more than I did 6 months ago. Now that I've already won one, he's like, it's weird that drive is there. And Travis Kelce saying last year that's the Super Bowl he wanted more than any other one. To me, those are the free agents that I wonder, can they go out and find with guys that are just sort of rolling along in the NFL, and then you relight that pilot light in that player, and he turns out to be a guy that then signs an extension and stays multiple years with the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's tough to identify that necessarily. I mean, maybe that in a player like Tranquill, and that the work that you've done in the past, and you've interviewed them, and you've got teammates who know them, and that you can get some insight on and everything. Maybe that will give you a little bit of an indication, but I don't know. I think it's tough. I mean, you're right. I mean, that hey, for the Chiefs, you do want to add the right players to the mix. I mean, that's one of the things that I think has obviously been the hallmark to a degree of the Brett Veach era, is that they've done a really good job of targeting players that they think will fit into their system on and off the field. And I can say that from being in that locker room, for the last 8 seasons, that team. I mean, this group that they've have right now, and the groups that they've had the last few years. I mean, the atmosphere in that locker room has been absolutely changed from when I started covering this team in 2016.
Yeah,
it's completely different, and you don't have exactly what Drue Tranquill said. You don't have anybody in that locker room that's going through the motions. You don't have anybody there that is unhappy, for one reason or another. And winning takes care of a lot of that. And sometimes players, who haven't been in winning systems will come in and rediscover that and figure out, hey, wait, you know what, this is pretty cool. But and that's the thing. I mean, I think it's a after effect. It's maybe something that you don't, if you're a player, you don't necessarily go out and seek until you realize that it's there. Because once again, I mean, the most important thing, like we talked about last week, it's what's the number on the check. It's the most important thing. And in Drue Tranquill, Casey kind of learns, hey, you know what? There actually are more important things than numbers on the check, but a lot of players don't realize that until it's too late.
Yeah, I just, it'd be great if you can find a couple more of those guys, but they are not easy to find. And the signing of Drue Tranquill last year, we were all excited about it by what kind of player he would be. No idea that it would turn out to be the player and the teammate that he's turned out to be, and re-signing and staying in Kansas City. Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. He is, as always, when he's with us, presented by Capital One Lending. We'll take a timeout, come back, and there's a draft trade scenario that NFL.com put out there, and I like the idea, but trading up for a particular position, I disagree with that. We'll talk about that with Matt Derrick and a couple of other things as we continue rolling along on this Friday edition, talking some Chiefs football. It's The Zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
If you want a connection, a semi connection between sports and leisure, there, Digstown with Lou Gossett Jr. is my favorite movie of his.
I was literally getting ready to say, I think my favorite Louis Gossett Jr. movie is Digstown.
It was fantastic.
I loved it. I love that movie, man. Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest, 41 is the Mike podcast. Okay, so Chad Ryder, NFL.com, has 6 first-round trades, first round of the draft trades that would, quote-unquote, make sense for all parties involved. So he's got the Chiefs trading up to pick number 16 with Seattle. I think that's 16. So pick number 16, the Chiefs trading up and giving up their first rounder, number 32, but also their second rounder, number 64, and next year's third rounder they got from the Titans to get to number 16. Before we get into what else he wrote about it, is that a deal that would be on the table for you, that you would be interested in doing? Obviously, it depends on who's available, but would it be worth trading that pick from L'Jarius Sneed and your second rounder if you can move up 16 spots to get somebody that the Chiefs have identified, whatever position it is, that is a guy that shouldn't be there at 16? Or is that true of a difference maker?
Once again, I mean, it depends on the player, it depends on the position, but the price is about right. So I think I would be willing to pay that price if the player that I really want is there. From a value prop, I think by Brett Veach's math, I think that's a bit big of a jump for him. I mean, because he is definitely falls into the philosophy that, you trade up to get value, not necessarily for value, if that makes any sense. Yeah. Which is that, paying to get to a guy that you have as a top 15 player, which, I mean, that's kind of, Chiefs usually have 15 to 20 first round value players. If you're trading up to do that, you're just kind of paying to just get what you kind of got. It's not necessarily an improvement in your value, even if it's a good player. But if it's a top 15 player that's a 22, and now you're trading up to get them, that's whole different, because now you're talking about giving up a lot less to getting for what you think is getting a lot more. I mean, it's basically like, okay, hey, you got a $40,000 SUV. Okay, am I going to pay sticker price for it, or am I going to go below that? I mean, am I going to pay $500 over invoice? I mean, Brett Veach is a $500 over an invoice guy. I mean, he's not necessarily just going to pay sticker price for a draft pick.
Or would you fall in love with it so much that you're willing to pay more money than what it's worth to drive it off the lot?
And I say this not knowing who the player is and everything. I mean, and I have a couple of names in my mind, and especially because of your clues and your hints. So I'm assuming it's not the player that I would trade up for at 16 that fell for some reason, which is Joe Alt. Because I would give up even more than that for Joe Alt. I mean, Nick Jacobs and I are pretty much on board with you giving up every single pick the Chiefs have for Joe Alt.
I think if Joe Alt fell, it'd be like he's still available at 10. Joe Alt has really fallen down the board to number 10. Yeah,
we would be just saying, would you like all of our picks, please? Thank you.
Which ones? Take your pick. It's a blank check of draft picks. No, this is where I disagreed with him, and you and I are on the same board. He said in this hypothetical, the Chiefs are trading up to get the speed on the outside to go along with the signing of Hollywood Brown. And I just can't see the Chiefs using a first, a second, and a third rounder to move up to get a wide receiver. If they were going to do that, they'd move up to get maybe Fuaga, Fautanu. I get those names mixed up. One's at Washington, one's at Oregon State. They're both Pac-12 players. A player like that they look at and say, wow, this guy, if he's there at 16, it's not just, hey, this guy's there at 16 and we had him at 16. It's this guy's there at 16 and we had him at 10. Or we had him at 9 or something like that. Then you'd be willing to move up and do that. Like Trent McDuffie's there at 22. We had him go. We didn't have a scenario where he was there at 21, 22. We're going to trade up and get him. But, well, this is the scenario we had of this guy going at 16. Okay, he's there at 16. No, this guy was supposed to go with, like, in your scenario, Joe Alt. All right, we're doing it because this guy should not be there, and the value now is more than that. But what you also throw into that is if you are trading up, now you are saying this guy has to be good enough to compensate for a first, a second, and a third-round draft pick. He has to be that good that it's what would be a first-rounder, a second-rounder, and a third-rounder to play that position. And it's difficult to reach that level of compensation for somebody to be that good that is not, say, a quarterback. And if it's a tackle, that guy had better be protecting Patrick Mahomes for the next 8 years on the left side, and better be damn good and also healthy as well. But if I'm trading up to do that, I'm getting a tackle. I'm not getting a wide receiver. I want the Chiefs. My one thing, if they can accomplish in this draft, obviously depth, but is can they come away with this draft with feeling good about a tackle moving forward, that would be a position that they have potentially solidified for the foreseeable future, and they don't have the Fisher to Orlando Brown to Donovan Smith / Wanya Morris / Jawan Taylor, that here's your left tackle, boom, let's move forward.
Yeah, I mean, and to me, if you're talking about giving up a first, second, and a third, and in this case, literally first, second, and L'Jarius Sneed for a receiver, I would probably say, why did you even trade Tyreek Hill then? I mean, now you're getting close to what you just got for Tyreek. And, remember how you use those draft picks on that you got back for Tyreek. I mean, you got a bunch of really good players. So, yeah, to me, and I was thinking that if you somebody's proposing a trade like that, I almost would think they were going up to try and get Brock Bowers or something.
Yeah. Why is Malik Neighbors there at 16?
That's not a tackle or something.
Right.
But I'm with you. I mean, I think that is a wait and see. If that's the type of player that's available at 16, I think you say, let's say that player's available at 22, and give up just a little bit less, because that to me is paying sticker price, and there's nothing necessarily wrong, but, paying sticker price is what you do when you're stuck. It's what you do when you have an opening that you can't fill any other way, and sometimes, you have the safe bet. I mean, that's what the Chiefs did when they signed Jawan Taylor. I mean, that was essentially here's a blank contract, put the number down because we have to have a tackle. Yeah. What they gave up for Frank Clark was basically that. Okay, name your price that you need for Frank Clark, both on the contract and in compensation in draft pick Seattle, because we have to have this guy. Yeah. And if you're in a draft scenario, I mean, like the Chiefs, and you say, hey, I have to have a defensive end right now and right here and an edge rusher, you end up with Breeland Speaks. I mean, that's not how you make draft picks. Yeah. Paying, to me, especially is paying sticker, is you got to look for value, and that to me is probably not value. That's why I think Brett Veach is getting so much better at the draft, is that he's willing to be patient and wait for his spots, and then when his spot is there, he acts.
Visiting with Matt Derrick. He's presented by Capital One Lending. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back and continue rolling with Matt. And if the Chiefs made a decision with L'Jarius Sneed that didn't involve L'Jarius Sneed, did that decision mean that they had already made another decision? We'll explain next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Dylan Michaels. We're hanging out with Matt Derrick, presented by Cap One Lending. Freedom Loan at Cap One Lending. The exclusive loan helps you pay off your home in less than half the time, gives you access to your home's equity without having to refinance. Matt Derrick hanging out with us. The New Orleans Saints have just signed a player that used to play rugby. So how about that? Maybe the Chiefs should get involved in that. I don't know, but the Saints are going the rugby route. Everybody is copying the Chiefs. I mean, it's whatever the Chiefs do. Teams are just trying to copy. Now, instead of looking for the next Patrick Mahomes, can you have who's the next Patrick Mahomes? Now they're trying to find the next Luis Riz-Ahmed. So,
there's at least one former handball player who signed as an international player previously. So. There's a lot of sports, Jason. I mean, I haven't seen a ping pong player yet make the jump, but I think it's going to happen.
Forrest Gump did.
I mean,
he would have done it. I mean, that guy just ran and ran and
yeah,
ran.
You see somebody with some good hand-eye coordination and size. I mean, that handwork. I mean, that could be. You get a 6'5", 300-pound ping pong player with some good handwork. Yeah,
most of them are. That's the average size of ping pong players. Is that 6'5"?
Not traditional, but I mean,
your non-traditional ping pong players who you're looking for the Chiefs to go out and sign. No, that's probably where the Raiders will be looking, or the Broncos. Broncos will probably be looking for the discount rugby players.
The Raiders will be looking for a 600-pound sumo wrestler to convert into a defensive tackle.
That's exactly right. They will look at the very small ping pong player and go, I bet that guy's fast. I bet that guy can run really fast. Let's go and put him out there. Look at this guy that runs on the outside as a soccer player. Let's get that guy out there. All right, so I'd mentioned going to break, Matt, that the decision the Chiefs made with L'Jarius Sneed, did it mean that they have already made another decision? So I'll ask you, in trading away L'Jarius Sneed, does that mean the Chiefs have already decided that Trent McDuffie is their cornerback that they are willing to invest in when they get to that 4th year / 5th year option, that they would be putting money into the cornerback spot? Or is L'Jarius Sneed a sneak peek and a preview of what will happen with Trent McDuffie in a couple of years?
It is a great question. I mean, I think that, step one of this is making a decision, which one would you rather make the investment into? And I don't think that the Chiefs are any different than any other NFL team. I think 9 out of 10 would probably absolutely say Trent McDuffie's the guy they're going to put money into. And that's no knock against L'Jarius. It's mostly just reality of the facts of the situation. Trent McDuffie is younger at the point in his career which he entered the NFL, and which he's going to become a free agent than L'Jarius. It's a 2-year difference, and that's a huge difference in NFL terms. You would rather. I mean, at this point, in the way that the cornerback position is evolving, 27 and 28 are probably either your prime or the end of your prime years. I mean, I think you can certainly make the case that based on the film and looking at the results, Jalen Ramsey's past his prime.
Yeah.
29 years old. So, that to me is a pretty good indication about just where the position is going. I mean, Marcus Peters, good as he wasn't the same player once he got to that age. So, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, if you're going to invest in a position, you're going to pay a corner when they're 25, 26, 27, not when they're 27, 28, 29. So that's part of the decision there. I mean, the other is that obviously Trent McDuffie is a much more polished receiver or corner at this point in his career than L'Jarius is. So that's another point in his favor. That's a little bit more with just, where they are as position as players and their career arcs. I mean, no knock against L'Jarius. It's just what Trent McDuffie's situation is. Now, that's step one, is choosing which one would you rather. Then it's going to be, hey, what's the cost? What's the deal? What's it look like? And the Chiefs may still say, we're never going to make a corner the highest paid corner in the league. We're never going to pay a corner top 3 money. And maybe they'll be that way. I mean, maybe it will be the 5th-year option for McDuffie, maybe, a franchise tag. He's here 6 years, and then you wish him good luck. I mean, we don't know. I mean, it could still be that maybe that is the scenario that plays out. We don't know. But I think it's more likely that they would sign McDuffie to a long-term deal, but it's not a guarantee.
We'll see what ends up happening. Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. Matt, appreciate it as always, brother. Looking forward to our conversation next week already. Thank you, man.
Absolutely. And I'm going to have to go watch Diggstown this weekend now.
No doubt. Me too. I'll watch that Netflix special in Diggstown as well. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you, brother.
Take care, my friend.
Absolutely. There's Matt Derrick. Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. We take a time out. We come back. Hey, let's talk some college basketball. Ari Temkin will be our guest from Sirius XM Big 12 Radio, and we'll talk some NCAA tournament with him coming up next. Let's talk some college basketball, some NCAA tournament. R.A. Timken, Sirius XM, Big 12 Radio, joins us here in the zone talking about what's been going on in the tournament and some other things as well in the college basketball world. Ari, welcome to the show. What's up, brother? How are you?
What's going on? I'm great. How are you?
I am doing just fine. Is your bracket destroyed? Do you have some Final Four teams remaining, Elite Eights? How are you looking from what you thought the tournament would look like?
Yeah, no, I went into the tournament pretty confident. Last year I did well in my bracket. This year, not so much. Yeah, no, I did not do well at all. Big 12 and SEC not showing out, man.
Ouch.
So that has not been well. Look, I think what Illinois did yesterday to Iowa State, what Alabama is doing, those are two teams that, throughout the course of the season ranked, in the hundreds in KenPom defense. Mm-hmm. And it's a good example of, maybe a team doesn't need to be a good, consistent defensive team over the course of the season, because if they've got athletes and length and they buy in a 6-game playoff situation, things can change. Because, again, I figured Illinois would have an early exit. You just can't count on that 113th ranked KenPom defense. I figured Alabama with the same. There's too much high variance with them, and certainly on defense, they just were not a good defensive team all year. It hasn't really mattered in this tournament. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And Alabama's been able to outscore some teams. I mean, North Carolina last night, they win 89-87. R.J. Davis would certainly like to have that first half back and some open shots that were missed, but those are things that happen. It was last night's North Carolina-Bama game, just as a total aside, was just so weird, and it was just the entire second half was like 8-0 run North Carolina, 9-0 run Bama, 6-0 run UNC, 7-0 run Alabama. It wasn't like a back-and-forth bucket. It was, wow, they just rattled off 7 straight, and they're up by 5. Wow, this team rattled off 8 straight, and now all of a sudden they're up by 3. It was an odd game last night, entertaining nonetheless.
No, and I mean, North Carolina fans, you hate to see it, but Withers, who is a 21% three-point shooter,
my goodness, yeah.
North Carolina had a 1-point lead with a minute left, and dude shoots a 3 with 20 seconds left on the shot clock. He's a 21% three-point shooter.
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? You can't do that, man. You just simply can't. You're open for a reason. Like, that's if the other team wants you to do that, you probably shouldn't do that. That's sort of the strategy I like to take in sports.
You're open for a reason.
Yeah. It's like Andy Reid. The other team wants you to punt on 4th and inches with Patrick Mahomes out there, so don't punt. They want you to. It's a win for them. You got Mahomes. It's 4th and inches. They're like, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God he's going to punt, and he's not going to keep Patrick Mahomes out there. Like you are left alone for a reason. As soon as he shot it, I'm like, oh, my God, what is he doing? Like, if that didn't turn out to be, was it South Carolina, Tennessee in the SEC Women's Conference Basketball Tournament where, somebody that never shoots a 3, took a 3, banked it in. I'm like, that's the way it goes in. But, wanted to be the hero. Did not end up being the hero. The hero ended up being Grant Nelson in a fantastic game last night. But, I'm with you on the Big 12 and SEC. My Final Four consisted of UConn and then Baylor, Kentucky, Tennessee. And it was Kentucky or Houston. So it was almost UConn, Baylor, Houston, Tennessee. And so I just sort of flipped a coin on the UK and Houston matchup. I wish I would have flipped another coin. Maybe best 2 out of 3 on that coin flip with Houston beating Kentucky. But, I'm never one to look at conference superiority based on the NCAA tournament because I don't think the Big East was the best conference this year. But, man, they certainly look like they have the most dominant team in America.
No doubt about it. And, look, I mean, I had Auburn, Baylor, Houston, and Purdue. Because I was just – you figure when everybody picks UConn, there's just no way. And, they have my God, have they looked good. And they've been slighted, obviously, by being put in this really tough region that they can – hold teams under 50 points, it seems like, in every game they've played so far. It's really been a tough draw for them to be in this really difficult East. They have to travel 83 miles from Storrs to Boston now. So, I mean, it's been a really tough go for them. You feel bad.
It's rough. It's rough. They actually took a bike ride there. They took an Uber to the arena from.
With traffic at 80 miles, that's a drive. That's a
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. In the Northeast, 80 miles might take you 4 or 5 days. I'm not sure. Houston is in action tonight. They're taking on Duke. It's one of the more anticipated games for me. You've watched this Houston team all year, and they're the one holding the water for the Big 12 in this tournament left as the newcomers, and they've been that all year. I mean, they've been the best team in the Big 12, and they're a deserving number 1 seed. Do they have it, not just for Duke tonight, but from what we've seen so far, from the way UConn is playing, Alabama scoring, Purdue looking like a juggernaut in their first couple of games as well, does Houston have enough to cut down the nets, do you think, in your mind?
Well, and I think there's a few pieces to this, too. And to go back to what you were saying about, how do you look at a conference and evaluate a conference, and how much do you take in postseason into account for evaluating a conference? Maybe, for one, I don't think the Big 12 has the same depth that we saw last year in it in terms, top to bottom. And so, ultimately, it was still a really good conference throughout the course of the season, but it was different because of just the drop-off probably when you get to that bottom 3 in this conference. We did see them compete, but for the most part, it just wasn't as good. The other thing you could maybe look at, too, is are these teams a little bit too worn down? Houston, they you can kind of look at them in the Texas A&M game in a few different ways. On one hand, you can look at it and say, they survived, and they took a really good shot, and the fact that they won that game says a lot, and, man, watch out, move forward. Or you could be like, well, they're kind of running out of gas here, and they're going on fumes, and now they've got a really good, talented, young Duke team with a lot of depth. I mean, Duke really offensively has all the puzzle pieces when you talk about Filipowski inside. Mitchell, his ability, his athleticism, his ability to block shots, rebound, and then they've got the 3 shooters. So, it presents a tough matchup. And, again, it depends kind of how – the answer to the question, by the way, of the A&M game is we don't know, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't know which one it was. We'll find out tonight. And then there's the piece of here's John Shire, year 2, taking over for Coach K, going up against the legend Kelvin Sampson that, the one thing he hasn't checked off is winning a national championship, and this is his team that we certainly thought would have the ability to do so. Shed and Cryer were really bad against A&M, but Emmanuel Sharp picked it up and had a huge game. So, on the one hand, you can't count on Jamal Shed and L.J. Cryer to have as bad a games. You also probably can't count on Emmanuel Sharp to do it again. So, I do expect Cryer and Shed to bounce back, and I do expect them to win. But again, I wouldn't be shocked if Duke won this game. And the answer to the question was, Houston just kind of run out of gas here.
And you mentioned the having the rough games. I don't expect Shed, Cryer, and Dunn to go 3 of 18. If they do, they're not beating Duke tonight. If those guys combine to go 3 of 18, because you're right, you can't count on Emmanuel Sharp to go 7 of 14 and to pick up the slack there. So where it's like, well, at the end of the game, you shot 33% from 3, kind of like average sort of, right. But when that's one guy that's filling it up and 3 other guys that are just really, really struggling to get it done. And having that, we talk about what does it mean for the team that comes back and ties it up? Does that team go into overtime and win? If that was the case, then A&M would have gone into overtime and won because of their crazy comeback. Instead, they went and ended up losing by 5. I like the Houston team. I really like Kelvin Sampson. I just have no idea in this particular region. And, of course, in the Midwest, when you've got 1, 2, 3, 5, if it wasn't for NC State, you'd sort of have, sort of the same thing. If it wasn't for, Kentucky losing, that South. I mean, it's very, very chalky, which is why I think a lot of brackets are busted early. Typically, it's the other way. It's like I went upset heavy. I went, I'm not going, except for UConn. UConn's the only one that I didn't go upset heavy. And other than that, I'm like, I'm not going to go 1s and 2s, and I'm going to have, I think I had 2 seeds even in the Sweet 16, and all 4 of them made it. I was just expecting that to be the case, but it's been pretty chalky, which is fine because we get some of these awesome matchups. Like my perfect tournament, Ari, is some early craziness. A Yale beating an Auburn, Oakland beating Kentucky, even though that killed my bracket, still crazy, cool story. Grand Canyon doing what they did and knocking off St. Mary's, James Madison playing the way they did against Wisconsin. But then sort of water finding its level, and we get Houston and Duke and Purdue and Gonzaga and Tennessee and Creighton and now, UConn and Illinois and these matchups. That's my perfect tournament. Early craziness, and you see some upsets. And then you get to this point in the tournament, and let's get some big dogs, and let's see these haymakers that are landed.
Yeah, and even though we don't exactly have the mid-major, Cinderella, so to speak, I mean, Clemson, it's an ACC team that had a good year, but, I mean, nobody thought Clemson was going to do anything in this tournament. That was a team, talk about being hot at the right time. I mean, they were not until they were when the tournament started.
That's right.
Like, they were limping into this thing.
Yeah, they went 1-3. They went 1-3 in their final 4 games before the tournament started. Like, nothing about that team said they're about to win, 3 games in the tournament.
And they were the better team against Arizona. Like, they closed out Arizona like they were the better team. Arizona was matching them bucket for bucket, and they just kept extending their lead down the stretch. It was incredible. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, last year we saw San Diego State kind of come from nowhere. Florida Atlantic obviously came from nowhere. And so it's a different year. I'm with you. I thought I had Grand Canyon going to the Elite Eight. I bought them big. And if you watched that Grand Canyon Alabama game, that was unbelievably fun to watch.
It was fun.
It's too bad Grant. So I was with you. I mean, I thought, who's the Florida Atlantic of this year? Who is the who is the San Diego State of this year? And there's not going to be. I mean, Clemson could potentially. I mean, we thought we were going to get the Caleb Love Bowl at Crypto in L.A. With North Carolina and Arizona playing. Instead, we're getting a college football playoff national championship game between Clemson and Alabama.
Yeah, I said the same thing. I'm like, well, you got Clemson and Alabama. Winner of this one's going to play for the national title. And then somebody, wait a minute, hold on. As a guy who roots for Missouri, you can't be a football school and go to the Final Four. Damn it, Bama and Clemson. It's not allowed. Choose one. You can choose one, Bama or Clemson. You get one. That's it. And that's all you get. And instead, one of these teams is going to be a recent national champion in football and hang a Final Four banner as well. Like, it's just not fair. What UConn's doing is also not fair. Ari Timken's our guest, Sirius XM College Sports, Big 12 Radio. I don't know that we've seen something recently with the dominance of UConn starting with last year's tournament. I put out these numbers in the first hour, Ari, that in the 9 games UConn has played since the tournament started last year, so they win the national championship, and now they're in the Elite Eight, so 9 games, their average score is 80-57. They are averaging a 23-point victory. The closest margin is 13 points. That was Miami in the Final Four last year, was the closest any team has got to UConn is 13 points. And only 2 of the 9 teams they have played, Ari, have reached 60 points. So it's not just that they're scoring 80. It's that, they're shutting other teams down too. Like, we saw Florida win back-to-back. We saw 2009 North Carolina cruise to a championship. We saw Villanova dominate teams. But something like this, where it's dominating teams last year, coming back this year, and dominating teams again, Illinois will be a real test. But Illinois, was in the hundreds of KenPom. Like, if Illinois is not going to go out there and score, and UConn's a top 10 defense, again, teams aren't even scoring this, in the 60s. I don't know that Illinois is going to be able to score enough with a UConn team. But it's going to be a great matchup. It'll be the best team they've played so far. But this UConn team has just been so dominant, and then to lose players and come back this year and continue to be that dominant, it's amazing what we're watching in this 2-year run now in the tournament.
It's incredible. And, I mean, I know it was at Allen Fieldhouse, but it's still, like, despite that, I can't believe that this Kansas team beat this UConn team this season. Like, that is incredible. And if you think about it, going back, this obviously a back-to-back team hasn't happened since Florida did it, and I believe Kansas beat Florida in the year they went back-to-back, the second year in the regular season that year. I think it might have been the season opener. It was on a neutral site. It wasn't at Allen Fieldhouse, but if UConn goes back-to-back, it'll be Kansas for the 2 teams to go back-to-back, beating them in the regular season, both Florida and then UConn. But, it's, and we joked about Danny Hurley earlier about this, the perceived slights that he's talking about in the media. I mean, he literally was in an interview with Matt Norlander from CBS Sports, and he was telling him the time of the game time. This was after the second round matchup, and he's like, for the Sweet 16, he was like, "Oh, there's a slight. Oh, yeah, the committee's just trying to do everything." And it's like, it sounded so ridiculous. Like, are you serious? The Illinois-Iowa State game finished around 12:45 local time a.m. You were back in your hotel watching that game, in your robe, laying in your bed. They didn't get home until 2 o'clock in the morning, and they got to turn around and play you again. What are you talking about? But here's the thing. It's like Kirby Smart. It doesn't matter that it sounds stupid and none of us believe it. All that matters is that those guys in the locker room believe it. And every indication is those guys believe everything that he says. Every slight and perceived slight, as ridiculous as they sound.
And it's and that absolutely true. You got to find those different things that can motivate your team. Going back to that game played in early December or late November, whatever the date was, with KU and UConn. And I remember at the time just talking about okay, can KU find the sixth guy? Elmarco Jackson was starting. Furphy had a couple of threes in that game, and it's like, okay, Elmarco's going to come along. Timberlake wasn't really playing at that time and sort of trying to find his footing on the team. But McCullough, Dickinson, and KJ Adams combined for 54 points in that game and 6 of 8 from behind the arc. That's if KU was still playing, that was going to be the triumvirate. That was going to be the guys. Those guys were going to be, leading this team. And it just shows that, with McCullough's injury, and then confidence is a crazy thing because that Kansas team on December 1st was, we're the best team in America. So we're perfectly fine playing UConn at home. We're preseason number 1. And, yeah, we may need some bench, but we're the most talented starting 5 in America. And you show up against a UConn team national champion and you play like that and, you own the house. And whether it was Allen Fieldhouse or not, you sort of own that game. It's such a different – because if KU played UConn right now, what would the score be? It might be 20, 25 points the way UConn's playing right now and the way KU's playing right now.
Yeah, they lost to Houston to close out the regular season by 30. They lost to Cincinnati at the Big 12 tournament by 20, and they lost to Gonzaga to lose at the end of the regular 30. So yeah, they probably lose to UConn by 40 right now, considering at the end of the season. You're right.
Yeah,
confidence is a fickle. It really is, and just offensively, this team was a shell of itself, and you knew you were losing the production with McCullough. From a literal sense, but I think it was the confidence of having him, the steadiness that suddenly you don't have him, and it's like, who's going to come up with those buckets? And man, in that Gonzaga game, that was just tough to watch. And KU fans were no stranger to those stretches. The second half of that Gonzaga game was pretty indicative of a lot of halves we saw over the course of the season where it was just tough to watch. And, last I checked, it's really, really, really difficult to win basketball games when you can't score.
Yeah, and you know what? I want to. That's exactly where I was going to go. The next one was before I get your thoughts on Scott Drew and let you go. But I wanted to talk about Iowa State because the game last night and T.J. Otzelberger and what he's done there at Iowa State and where that program was in 2 or 3 years that he's been the coach. They've gone to Sweet 16s, but last night in the first half they scored 26 points and they just struggle. And that's where they ultimately lost the game. And if Illinois had lost the game, it was going to be because of the free throws that they could not hit. They ended up going, barely 50%, 15 of 29 from the free throw line. But Iowa State scoring 26 points in the first half. It's a team that, when they lost in the Sweet 16 2 years ago, they scored in the 50s against Miami, and they lost by double digits. This is now year 3 where the offense was the best that T.J. Otzelberger has had in his 3 years, but he's consistently had top 10 defenses. Is there another step for Iowa State and Otzelberger, or is this kind of the MO of what they're going to be? The calling card's going to be defense, and maybe a year or two somewhere they can get enough offense to make a run, or is this going to be a program that we look at Otzelberger over a number of years and go, man, another game in the Sweet 16 or round of 32 where they just couldn't score enough, even though their defense was awesome?
It's a great question, and I think next year is going to go a long way in it because, look, T.J. Otzelberger's been to 2 Sweet 16s in 3 years.
Yeah.
He took over a program that did not win a Big 12 game in Steve Prohm's final year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that in and of itself is remarkable. At UNLV, previously, UNLV, he was there for like a cup of coffee, but UNLV in South Dakota State, like, he had really high-powered offenses. So it's sort of funny how he's taken what he's had personnel-wise and made the best out of it. I think he's looked at his teams the last 3 years he's been at Iowa State, and they haven't had great offenses and great offensive weapons. And so it's like, all right, we're going to have to defend and hold teams. Like, he's catering the way they're going to play to the players they have. Now, last year was brutal in terms of couldn't score. They lost the first round last year, and I think they put up 40 and shot like 20%. And so you could tell he went into the offseason, he's like, that's never going to happen again. And he did improve with Gilbert. They brought in Gilbert and Jones to the portal. Those guys are really good offensive pieces. Now, make no mistake about it. The game last night was disappointing because they had every opportunity in that game, and they just couldn't do it. I mean, Illinois was like 5 of 18 from the foul line at one point. They ended up shooting much better in the final 10 minutes of the game from the free throw line. But, I mean, they could not hit a free throw. They also had a pretty long stretch in the second half with Terrence Shannon on the bench. And Underwood could afford to sit him as long as he did because every time Iowa State got to within a bucket, they just couldn't make it. In fact, they had a wide-open layup to tie the game, and Gilbert booted the layup.
He
airballed it. With an alley-oop.
He airballed a layup. He airballed an alley-oop. I've never seen that before. I don't know that I've ever seen an airballed alley-oop. Yeah, when that airball went through, right. The Gilbert miss, but then the airballed layup. I'm like, they're done. They're done. That was
You talk about confidence. I mean, that was It was like the confidence. It couldn't get there. Like they just got so. You know, it's a disappointing finish to a year that they looked like a much better offensive outfit. But to your question and to your point, yes, you're not going to win a title like this. And they're going to have much higher expectations next year. I expected a preseason top 15, and so we'll see. Well, offense is going to be a huge key for them next year.
It's a great point because going back and looking at his resume, T.J. Otzelberger, and it is pretty stark to look at his last year at South Dakota State and see that they had the number 3 3-point shooting team in America. They were a top 40 team.
Is that hilarious?
They were a top 40 team in tempo. Like they were the 40th fastest team in America. They were number 2 in effective field goal percentage offensively, and they ranked almost 200th defensively. Like, who are you?
Right.
Was he wearing like oversized shirts? Was he wearing oversized shirts at that time too? Like he just completely morphed into a different man?
But it's what you want every coach to be, right? I don't want you to be married to a scheme. I want you. Who do you have? And let's fit the right schemes to fit your personnel. And look, they've got to be more to that. Now you keep the defensive piece and you get more offense. But look, I mean, if this tournament is showing me one thing, it's that maybe over the course of the season, those season-long trends, Illinois was the better defensive team in that game. And you're talking about a top 2 defense according to the whole regular season KenPom. That's not a KenPom miss. That's what they were this season. That's what Illinois was this season. But this is a 6-game NCAA. It's almost like they're like the NBA. Like they're saving it for the playoffs.
Well, and I heard Mike DeCourcy in an interview that he does with the Border Patrol, and they asked him about Illinois defensively, and he's like, it's perplexing to me. He's because they have all the pieces to be a really good defensive team. They just haven't done it. And he's like, I see this team play defense, and I'm like, they should be so much better defensively. Well, they're putting it together now defensively. So will that be enough for UConn?
Bama too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. Last one for you, Ari Temkin, our guest, Sirius XM Big 12 Radio. Scott Drew said he's happy at Baylor. His family's happy at Baylor. He's got a home. He's not going anywhere. Louisville was interested in hiring Scott Drew. I had heard that if Kentucky felt like they had a chance at Scott Drew, they may have made the move on John Calipari, but they were told Scott Drew was staying at Baylor, so they're staying with Cal. Because I think if they were going to fire Cal, Ari, it was going to be they fired Cal, and then the next day they've got a coach introduced. It wasn't going to be we're firing Cal and we'll figure out who we're going to go and get. And I think it was Scott Drew, or it was either, hey, Hurley, here's a blank check. What do you want? But if Scott Drew says no thank you to Louisville and assuming maybe Kentucky, Is he now a lifer? Is it, you know what, I've been here this long, I'm going to be here, maybe the time to leave was 5 or 6 years ago, but now I've won a national title here. I got things up and rolling. Is he now a lifer at Baylor, and Scott Drew's a guy that isn't going to be, ripped away out of Waco to go to a bigger traditional program?
Yeah, what's interesting is I guess I never really expected him to ever think about or entertain the idea of leaving. And the fact that this rumor even came about or the report, like, to me, it's almost like, wow, he was a lot closer to leaving than I actually thought he ever was.
Yeah. But he stayed.
But he stayed. But I just never thought he would have even thought about it, or taken interviews. And who knows how far it went in this case. But he's just been and has maintained throughout that he's happy in Baylor, what he's built there. I mean, there's no reason to leave. They have all the resources in the world. He and Mack Rhoades, what they've done together, the cohesion that they have, certainly recently, and now that you've built a new stadium, right? So, I mean, there's so much momentum there. The biggest thing for Scott Drew is he just lost another assistant coach.
Yeah.
He now has 5 former assistant coaches coaching, heading up programs right now. John Jacobs, a longtime assistant coach for him, who was also on the Gonzaga bench, left and took over for Dusty May at Florida Atlantic. So, yeah, Paul Mills at Wichita State, Matthew Driscoll at North Florida, obviously Jerome Ting and Grant McCaslin on the Big 12, and now John Jacobs at Florida Atlantic. And Alvin Brooks, who's another assistant, is not too far behind.
Wow.
So, he's in some ways he's kind of the anti-Belichick because these guys leave and do really well.
They have success.
Kind of create their own thing. They're not trying to duplicate the Baylor model. They're doing their own thing, and it's incredible.
Ari Temkin, Sirius XM, Big 12 Radio, College Sports. Ari, you're incredible. Always, we appreciate the time, brother. Enjoy the basketball, and look forward to our next conversation, man. Appreciate it as always, buddy.
Yeah, appreciate you. Take care. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely. There's Ari Temkin. Great stuff from him. Love our conversations with Ari. And he's right about, the rumors and the talk about Scott Drew. Like, there was, at least it was put out there by, a couple of reputable, people that Louisville was in the ballpark of around maybe $8.5 million for Scott Drew. Kentucky would be around there as well. Scott Drew's making 5. Now, 5 is a lot. But if you're making 5, 8.5 is really hard to turn down. So I'm guessing we'll hear a contract extension sometime soon with Scott Drew, because it was this weekend where it was like Sunday, where it was like, okay, well, Mitch Barnhart's going to meet with John Calipari, and what I had said is, you're not firing Cal unless you already have your guy ready to go. Like Travis Kelce apparently thought, Australian TV thought they had his brother in tow. They did not. You would have a coach in tow. And if that was Scott Drew, I don't know what the other answer would be. That seemed to be the obvious one. Louisville ended up with their third choice. They wanted Scott Drew. They also went after Dusty May. They got their third choice. He had an introductory press conference. He joked around and said, I was my wife's third choice as well, so it's all good. You like somebody that's sort of self-aware there and has some fun with it. But yeah, so Scott Drew probably at this point, he's been there so long. But it's an interesting point about all the assistants, because it's kind of a big night for Gonzaga, right? It's a big night for both Matt Painter and Mark Few. Because Mark Few, without Tommy Lloyd, okay, get past the Sweet 16 without Tommy Lloyd. Purdue and Matt Painter, hey, get to a Final Four and, have some success in the tournament. So we'll see. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. Mick Schaefer will hang out with us, KSHB 41 sports director. We will eliminate some sound in the bracket of sound. We'll talk some Rawls, some NCAA tournament, some UConn dominance, what's coming up tonight and this weekend. More Zone right after this. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Dylan Michaels. We're hanging out with Mick Schaefer. He's presented by Empower Payments. Why settle for ordinary merchant services when you can give to charity with every transaction with Empower Payments? Visit empowerpayments.com today to learn more. Mick Schaefer hanging out with us. Mick, welcome in, man. Good to see you.
Hey,
all right, it's a Friday.
Here.
It's a beautiful day outside.
It's a beautiful day outside.
We got the deck door open.
The deck door is open.
We got the blinds up. We got just a little some smoky clouds in the sky.
Have to close the blinds and the door for whatever Soren and Curtis want
right.
when they come in here.
Yep, we will.
Just
we
the
will
eighth wonder of the world. They should be setting the. Who does the Border Patrol set it to your liking, or do you do it yourself?
No, I come in and open.
So
the
in and
blinds
out,
with them.
you're moving the blinds and
That's
the door
right.
and
Yeah,
everything.
I open them up and then close them. Yep, open the blinds, and I guess it's like, hey, if you open the blinds, you close them, right?
I feel like
you empty the Joe, you make some Mo, right?
I don't know. It's like
I read that on a sign here.
If you leave the toilet seat up, if you use it up, you leave it up, right? That's
typically not what it is.
Although, I mean, why is it on us to put it down? We like it. Well, when my wife gets done, she doesn't put it back up, right? It's not a two-way street there.
See, I can't stand when the lid is up. I want both of them down each time.
Yeah,
lid down.
Bother. Man,
seat and
well,
lid.
Why does it go the other
down.
way? Like, no. Put that lid up.
Whoa,
and the
whoa,
seat up.
Honey, I saw you get up. I couldn't
Yeah,
help but notice that you did not lift the seat for me.
I'm conscious and aware of your wants and pee needs, okay? Why aren't you? Why we're not reciprocating that, huh?
Why don't you care about my needs?
Yeah, needs.
Come on. I think about your needs. Think about mine. No, tell my kids, hey, seat and lid, please. Closed, all right? There's a lid for a reason on it.
My kids' bathroom habits growing up, if you have to flush, you get the wipe.
Yeah.
You got
usually the wipe before the flush, but it doesn't matter if you can.
Make sure you wipe, flush, and wash your hands.
Wipe, flush, wash.
And if they batted 333 on that, I was like, you know what? The Hall of Famers.
Hall of Famer kid. I got a Hall of Fame kid,
Hall
man.
of Famer.
My kid's batting 333, going 1 for 3 every time they're in the bathroom.
Yeah, he flushes. That's it. Nothing else.
Sometimes, and every once in a while he'll just get right up and wash his hands for. No, I feel like if you didn't do one of the other two, no reason to wash your hands. But whatever. So let's say mark off P-Talk from the format with Nick
there
in our pre-show meeting that we had this morning via Skype. Zoom, Friendster, via our MySpace pages. We looked at over that. That's great. We got college basketball coming your way tonight right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, presented by Xfinity, Greenlight Dispensary, Hollywood Casino, and Trailside RV. 3 of the 4 dogs won last night, right?
Yeah, that made Mick some money.
Yeah,
I was good with that.
The only favorite that won was the favorite that won by 30.
So Illinois won. You had Alabama winning.
And Clemson over Arizona.
And Clemson, yep.
Yeah, so Clemson, Arizona. So if you had the dogs last night, typically
Illinois wasn't much of a dog, but they were technically one.
They were technically a dog last night.
And I don't think Alabama was much of one.
They weren't.
I think it was plus 100 something.
Yeah, no, they weren't. It was San Diego State was a huge dog. And Illinois is, I think, UConn is like minus 400 for that game already in the Elite Eight. They're a 9-point favorite over Illinois because they are just a gravy train with
They're not leaving
wheels.
much to chance out there, right?
No, they're not.
Nobody's watching their games because they're all blowouts.
Did you hear Danny Hurley and his commentary last night about some of the margin of victory and what his team's doing? Here he is last night weighing in on the 23-point margin of victory in the 9 tournament games they played going back to last year. Here's Danny Hurley.
I mean, we suck at winning close games, so you got to go with the alternative. No, I think the group, we got a killer instinct. We play every possession with great desperation. We got NBA-level players that are incredibly well prepared, and obviously we're very comfortable in tournament play. We're hard to prepare for.
Yeah, this is a really good formula for winning. Here's what they typically do. They typically get to around 80 points, and they typically don't allow the other team to get to 60.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, if you do that, I kind of like your chances to go and win a number of games in a row at the end of the season. And they have won 9 consecutive tournament games now, and they have won them in dominant fashion. San Diego State has to feel terrible. Or maybe they don't. I don't know. They are 7-2 in the last 2 years in the tournament, San Diego State is. Their 2 losses are to UConn.
UConn both times, yeah.
National championship and the Sweet 16 by 17 and 30. So they have lost by a combined 47 points in their 2 losses, and they are 7-0 in every other game they've played in the NCAA tournament the last 2 years.
So I like the East region as well because of Matt Norlander, college basketball writer, asked every head coach's favorite band.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and so all 16 teams had 16 different answers. The Sweet 16. I felt this was the strongest band region, and namely because Dan Hurley picked Pearl Jam. Well done there, and then. Brad Underwood, Morgan Wallen, solid choice. Somebody picked Springsteen. Who was it? Yes, Brian Butcher from South Dakota
somebody
State.
picked Springsteen. Every single media writer in college basketball and football and baseball.
No, these are the coaches.
Over the age. I know, but you said somebody picked Spring. It's a running joke of every media member. It's like, who's your favorite? Springsteen. Every writer out there that's over the age of like 45.
TJ Otzelberger almost ruined it for me.
Oh, who'd he take?
Ed Sheeran.
Oh, yeah, I remember seeing
what
that.
Doing?
I could not believe he took
But
Ed
I felt
Sheeran.
the strength of the other 3 really brought that region up. So that's my favorite band region.
I could not believe he took Ed Sheeran. And I'm like, man, I kind of believe it. I don't know. Not sure. That's interesting.
The guy that wears those shirts, totally into English crooners.
Yeah, probably. It is medium shirt season for coaches.
Who
in
else?
College basketball. Well, it just happens to be last night. So yesterday, Otzelberger is out there coaching, and then Louisville introduces their new head coach, Pat Kelsey, and he wears medium, very, very small.
Pat Kelsey? The third Kelsey brother?
The Charleston head coach. I think it's Kelsey. That's how he spells his name.
Originally pronounced Kels, though.
Kels, yeah, Kels. He wears very tight, form-fitting clothes with the tight-fitting pants and the very small medium shirt. And so it's like you see him, and they're showing him on the sideline, and then, TJ Otzelberger. I'm like, everybody is just putting their shirts in the dryer for like an hour before they go and put it on. But yeah, and then you got some suits out there. You got Nate Oates that's rocking like the checkered.
He always has is it kind of a houndstooth in honor of the Alabama,
that's right.
Bear Bryant. Yeah,
got the houndstooth going on. And Clemson, Brad Brownell. That's like he's just going to head to Kohl's. Real quick, just going to stop by Kohl's on the way to the kids' basketball game. Brad Brownell just looking like the Air Monarchs on the sideline.
He's hanging on. I remember it was in 2018. I think KU played them in the tournament. I'm
about to get fired.
This guy's about to get fired, and he's still there
for years.
And after this run, he's going to be there for at least a few more years.
Just imagine if he had won the bidding war for Zion.
I know, right? Well, and then
if Zion hadn't chosen the brotherhood over the money.
Sure.
Because there was no bidding war because he went to Duke. You didn't have to pay for Zion. But go to Clemson, you got to pay. But apparently. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the football Elite Eight coming up, Alabama and Clemson. I mean, the football teams wouldn't know about an Elite Eight because that hasn't happened in their time. Pretty soon.
Not yet,
they might be meeting in that. But, yeah, it's funny. We had the Mick and Kevin Bracket Challenge at work, and we've been promoting it, and we promoted it at Foaling, which is football and bowling. So we promoted the basketball tournament at a football and bowling place.
Nice.
Okay.
That makes sense.
And we're both doing really good. I have 12 of the 16. I picked a lot of chalk. And he had 11. And so we were doing our video yesterday, looking at our Sweet 16 and all that. And I mean, he had Creighton, Tennessee, Purdue, Gonzaga, got those all right. He advanced NC State. That was his dark horse. He had Houston, all these teams. And then we got to the East. And he had Illinois and Iowa State. And guess who he had above that, where UConn, San Diego State played?
He had UConn and Auburn.
He had Northwestern and Yale.
Oh, God.
In the Sweet 16. I'm like, I just circled it 100 times. Like, what are you doing? What are you thinking there?
That's a
He's
rough
like,
one.
I thought the smart guys were going to handle it. I'm like, when would you ever think that? The smart guys in the turn. In fact, you should look at Team GPA and go from lowest to highest, and that's where you start with your winners. And I'm like, that would be 4 wins between those two teams. I don't know if those two programs have 4 wins in their history combined.
Northwestern now has 2 wins in their history.
Yale probably has a couple now.
Probably.
At least one.
Yeah, we know they have one.
Yes.
You're right. They probably got one in some other tournament.
So funny, man.
God, didn't Yale have didn't they have a win and they had a little point guard that went to like Baylor or something that transferred to Baylor, a little shooter? I don't know. Those things sort of run together now.
I think they have. I would bet they'd have more than 2.
Got a couple of wins.
But
it's funny. I've got.
Otherwise, he would have had like 14 to 16.
I've still got 6 of the of my Elite 8 that are still alive.
Yeah.
The only 2 that aren't are the teams that I picked to go to the Final Four.
Sure, yeah.
Kentucky and Baylor out. But I've got Purdue and Tennessee. I've got UConn, Illinois. I've got Bama. I've got Houston.
Yeah.
I just don't have Kentucky or Baylor.
It's one thing when you're like, I have 12 of my 16 Sweet 16s left. I have zero
Final
Final Fours, though.
teams. That's right. Luckily, I still have my national champion, and I feel good about it in UConn. I don't care. I went upsets everywhere except for national title. I'm like, I'm just going to go upsets. It's going to be crazy. And then, I'll get to upsets in like the Sweet 16 and the like I had no 2 seeds coming out and except for Tennessee.
They all made it.
Every one of them have made it. So we'll see. We'll take a timeout, come back, continue rolling. We'll still talk some Royals with Mick Schaefer, whether you like it or not. We'll do that with the loss 4-1 yesterday to the Twins. It's only one game, all right? That does not count as 85.
I don't know how they bounce back. It counts. That's
sure.
like, what is that, like 5 minutes of gameplay or something like that in an NFL season?
Yeah, so that's one possession
of
the or one defensive possession. Yes. Who knows? We'll take a timeout, come back, continue rolling. More Zone right after this. The Zone. We'll still hang out with Mick Schaefer. We will eliminate some sound in the bracket of sound coming up on the other side of the break. We'll talk some Royals baseball. They lost 4-1, but it's only one game.
It is only one game.
We did the math. We did the math. That one Royals game, if we look at the Chiefs' 17-game regular season, that one Royal game is the equivalent of what ended up being 17 offensive plays in that first game again, with both the Chiefs and the Lions combined.
6 minutes and 20 seconds of gameplay.
The first game is that one game. So roughly, we have watched 17 one Chiefs possession. And the Lions, it was 0-0, and the Lions had just converted a fourth down fake punt. If we go all the way back to that, that's Pablo Lopez yesterday.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, hanging out here on this Friday edition of the show. Jason Anderson, Dylan Michaels, Mick Schaefer. You know, he's presented by Empower Payments, boosting your business and charity with every transaction. Learn more at empowerpayments.com. You know what? Let's have some fun here before we talk some Royals. They didn't have much fun out there at the ballpark, except for the first inning.
Fun.
You think they
were having fun all the way until the top of the ninth. Then it's like, okay.
They got home and they left and they got their little token for a Pepsi and a hot dog. They were having just out there having fun.
I think they all collected the Bobby baseball bobbleheads.
Do you think Matt Quattro brought everybody together after the game? Gather everybody, took a knee on the field, like, hey, coaches, what do you think we got? You know what? I loved the fight with you guys today. Very good, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Think
Shake
they did one of those
team's hands.
Yes.
Oh God,
they didn't do that. They didn't do that. The Twins went out there and shook their own hands.
They did.
They
did. So
Selfish.
I hate that the Bobby baseball bobblehead was given out on the first day because that means, I guess, the end of those commercials. You see the commercials?
Yeah, that's a good point.
The old school '80s commercial with the kids and that was so good. It was such a good commercial. I'm gonna miss it.
I do appreciate that. I didn't hear the national anthem have any "Home of the Chiefs" on that.
I didn't either because everything was the
flyover was
happening.
going on. Yeah, that's true.
Our civic nightmare.
I was going to say that on the air yesterday. Like, hey, let's let the Royals have their day because Andy Reid's already throwing out the first pitch, and they're already having Mark Donovan and Clark Hunt there, which is a little surreal, by the way, when Andy Reid walks out with a Lombardi Trophy and a baseball. And he gets out there, and then he hands his Lombardi Trophy to Mark Donovan, who's already holding one. Yeah. And Clark Hunt's holding one. So now there are three Lombardi Trophies out there.
They don't have enough hands between the three of them for Lombardi Trophies.
They only have 3 of the 4. That's not even all the Lombardi Trophies they have. Clark didn't want to be double-fisting Lombardi Trophies, right? Like beers. That's what it's called when people. I'm not the.
Oh yeah, that's exactly
that's what they do. Like he didn't want to be Edward Scissorhanding the Lombardi trophies. Isn't that what people do?
Yeah,
take the Lombardi trophy and
with the
duct tape
you're doing right there,
duct tape it around your hand, right? And then you got to walk around until you win another Lombardi trophy with just Lombardis in your hand. What a crazy game! I think that would affect Clark Hunt's life. I think that would be more impactful than somebody playing Edward 40 hands, Vince Lombardi hands.
But the Royals had some red on their jersey yesterday in honor of the Chiefs.
Yep. They did a little quick trip around the bases. A couple people did.
So do you know the pattern, or I guess the rule is if you're a right-handed pitcher, it's on your right shoulder. If you're a right-handed hitter, it's on your left shoulder. All for the camera.
Oh, wow. I thought it would be like away from the pitcher, away from the hitter.
It's all about the camera.
It's all about the camera. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's all about the camera, which is all about the Benjamins.
All about the Benjamins, which is all about the taquitos.
And that's how we get to Quick Trip.
The Quick Trip, I'm telling you.
Which is how we get to
the patch
Andy Reid.
on the uniform is like subtitles on a Netflix show for me. It's all I look at. When I see the uniform, my eyes just go to that red patch.
I am addicted to subtitles on Netflix.
Oh, God, get out of here. Let me tell you.
It's weird. It's weird. I really am.
You're a Gen Zer. That's what they.
No, I'm a Gen Xer, though. But I'm an Xer.
I know, but you're acting like a Gen Zer. You're a couple letters off. Are you like that, Dylan? Do you use the subtitles?
It depends. If it's a quiet thing,
that's all I want. I won't watch the show. I'll just watch the words that I can hear with my ears.
Here's the thing. I'm trying to 2 birds, 1 stone. Now I'm reading it. So people are like, do you read often? Yeah. I read the whole Netflix special. Read the entire thing.
I read The Gentleman. I read the whole series of The Gentleman.
Read the whole Gentleman. You know what? Book was better.
Although
I do think the book was better.
With the Cockney accents and everything.
Exactly.
You might need it for that show.
You might need it a little bit for that show.
That and Letterkenny.
But there are some times, yes, for sure, with that. There are times when maybe I don't have the subtitles on, and then I'll have to rewind and then turn subtitles on just to see what they said.
People will say, and people actually in the know will say, the mixing of movies and these shows now is so much different from back in the day, to where like a lot of the natural sound, a lot of the background noise is up there competing with the words that are being said, and people and actors are better now, so they talk more like we talk, right? As opposed to
Do
back
they?
in the day, nah, see?
Yeah.
We're going to go get you.
Yeah,
you
Copper.
see? You better watch out, Copper.
Yeah,
right, where
champ.
they just
Tell us
enunciate
latest about
and
the old
yell every word.
stick and ball.
That doesn't happen anymore.
Yes.
So.
Hey, champ! In the third inning, tell us what happened with the old stick and ball.
I'm still anti-subtitle, though. But pro QT patch.
Pro QT patch, anti-subtitle. It is a great point that's all I see in my eye. Like my son, he's watching. They pick him up from school, watching the game, and he goes, "Why is Quick Trip on their jersey? How did Quick Trip get to be on their jersey?" I said, "Well, they paid money. It's advertising." I said, "Oh, okay." That was it. That was all there was to it. All right, let's eliminate some teams in the bracket of sound. As you know what, let's start within my Swifty era. As UConn advances as the number 1 seed, and San Diego State the 5 seed. And with the 5 seed gone with San Diego State, that means that this audio is also eliminated.
So you don't have to.
Oh, here we go. Movement.
What's going on here? Come on, cameraman, go in there, please. Is that Trav?
That looks like it could be him.
Oh, that could be
Big
Travis.
Oh no, that looks like it could be Travis.
That actually
two
no, I
Travis.
think that's Travis.
He's brought his brother.
Feel like
Is that his brother in tow?
possibly.
Brought a mate.
That looks like Travis.
He brought a mate.
He's got the sporty attire on, so
Definitely
it's
not
in
an
keeping.
IT crowd. So I'm feeling even more confident now that this is Travis Kelce.
I'm very, very excited.
His backwards cap and his sporting athleisure
Yeah.
here, I would say we are onto the right person here.
And as Carl was saying this morning, it's quite quick, isn't it, when you're on a private jet? You're just sort of taken away, whisked away. You don't have to wait in any lines. It's
Some
quite an
degree
easy.
of knowledge.
Well, not me personally.
No, as
you
Carl
would have
said,
some
this
experience.
is not a Jetstar experience. With all respect to our friends at Jetstar.
So only 2 people have climbed out. It looks like it's Travis and his brother, we think. We're obviously not certain because we're looking at this from quite a distance. We'll firm up those details for you shortly. But it appears as though, as Dickie said, Travis Kelce has made yet another touchdown in Sydney this morning.
That's it. That's it. I'm
Had
fine
to
with
get the
that being
dismount.
gone. What? And it wasn't them, right?
I had to get well, it was Travis, but
It
not his
was his
brother. It
brother.
was Travis and Travis. It was like Rob Travis, right? The former tight end with the Chiefs. It's now Travis's. Ross Travis.
yeah.
Yep, Ross. Sorry, Ross Chandler. I get them all mixed up sometimes. Joey.
Phoebe Travis.
That's right. Ross Travis. Travis's, mate. He brought his mate. He brought his mate. And the sporting athleisure. It's definitely not an IT crowd. That's for sure. You could tell.
Great word is athleisure.
You can tell that was not an IT crowd for sure. I mean, those guys played football. All right, San Diego State eliminated and gone. The Illinois Fighting Illini, they have advanced, and Iowa State, the 2 seed in my Swifty era region, has been eliminated, and the 2 seed is represented with this sound, and it's gone.
Speaking of Taylor Swift, I know you went to the Taylor Swift concert. How was it?
Yeah, well, I was disappointed that she doesn't talk before or after her shows because she has to save her voice for the 44 songs that she sings. So I was a little butthurt I didn't get to hand her one of the bracelets I made for her.
You made her a bracelet?
Yeah. If you're up on Taylor Swift concerts, there are friendship bracelets, and I received a bunch of them being there, but I wanted to give Taylor Swift one with my number on it. Not right now.
Your number's in 87 or your phone number?
You know which one. She doesn't meet anybody, or at least she didn't want to meet me, so I took it personal.
She probably just hasn't gotten over the Super Bowl yet. She's a big Eagles fan. Maybe she just made something up and just didn't want to talk to you.
Damn it.
The sound that started it all. The call that started it all for Travis Kelce. And as he said, I brought this on myself. Tried to give her his number. And I love Jason's question. You're like number 87 or, oh, you know which one. All right now. That is the in my Swifty era region. We've got the 1 versus the 3. Heading down to Fat Bear Week
You think
region.
that like really, really famous rich people have numbers, like phone numbers that are just like 1 or 2 digits? It's like
Call
a
me
perk.
I'm star
Call
7.
me at 12.
Star 7.
I got 12.
It's called burner phones.
Right.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods like, actually I got 9. Trump's like, I got 2.
2.
2.
It's
huge.
Who has 1? Like Jesus?
I don't want to say he's not here. Maybe he is here now, but I would say maybe someone more apparently here.
He's always with us,
who
actually.
he is.
Yeah. if you believe.
Who would it be? Who is the most Jordan? Maybe because he's the greatest basketball player ever.
Oh yeah.
LeBron's like, I got 1,000. I still got to dial 4 numbers.
Yeah, so Jordan would be number 2. LeBron would be number 1. That's right. That makes total sense. Probably Putin, because you don't want to. You know what? Just let him have one. All right, there's no need to even. We're not even going to go there. Just let him just have number 1.
You get accidentally dialed so often. Your butt hits like 16 and it dials Adele.
With Adele. Somebody with the last name of Clinton is going to get. There's a royal family. There's a duchess.
Hello.
There's a York somewhere that's going to be number 16. Fat Bear Week we head to in the Bracket of Sound, the Fat Bear Week region, which is the West. And we have the 1 versus 4. It was North Carolina taking on Nelly. Let me tell you about Alabama. And North Carolina ended up losing. And that means we lost. Oh, man. That's unfortunate. We lost this sound, but hey, take a listen and enjoy.
Isn't it so great that, like, now he's probably going to get, like, really famous and have a successful career?
Travis Kelce?
Yeah.
He's one of the top most 5 famous people in the NFL already without her. He's the highest.
Dude, nobody's ever heard of him until today.
You're ridiculous. What do you mean? You're out of your mind. Travis Kelce, he's like got endorsements left and right. He's one of the top 5 most popular people in the NFL.
Dude, literally no one knew who he was until today.
Look, dude, you're talking out of your A right now. No, that's a fact. It's not true.
Did you see that Taylor Swift was dating some football player?
Travis Kelce?
Yeah, but like I didn't even know who he was until Taylor Swift.
Are you joking?
No, for real. Like, that's so cool.
Don't say that in public, please.
Don't say that in
Isn't it
public.
crazy how Taylor Swift has like put Travis Kelce on the map?
Taylor Swift put Travis Kelce on the map?
Yeah.
Baby, Travis Kelce is one of the most famous football players in the NFL right now. Like before he was dating Taylor.
But I didn't ever hear about him before Taylor Swift.
You don't know what football is.
Isn't it awesome? She's gonna be like helping him get his career going. Nobody knew who he was until she showed up at the game for him the other day, and now that's all anyone can talk about. Like she's really helping put him on the map.
How can so much nonsense come out of your mouth?
What are you talking about? I think it's awesome that she's helping him so much.
Oh my, no. Kelly, stop. Stop.
What? His career's about to like explode now too. Because he's about to get so much publicity, too.
Because his career didn't explode when he was winning Super Bowls before?
Did he win Super Bowls?
No, Kelly, stop. Stop.
What? I didn't know his name until Taylor Swift was with him, so he's going to have, like, a really good fan base now.
Oh, Kelly, stop. No, don't say that.
Say what?
All of that. From the moment I walked through here until now. Don't ever repeat that again.
She, like, put him on the map and, like, no one knew who he was before he started dating her?
Put him on the map.
Yeah, like, no one knew who he was before he started dating Taylor Swift.
Are you high right now?
I'm pretty happy for, what's his name? Travis Kelce. You know, he's finally getting some publicity.
Travis Kelce?
Yeah.
Kelce?
What do you mean he's finally getting publicity?
Because of Taylor Swift. She's putting him on the map.
Bro. He's putting who's putting what on the map?
People know who he is.
Because nobody knew who he was.
No, not before Taylor Swift.
You had a TV show. You probably seen it. It's like a dating show. It's like the stuff that you like.
Heard of him before Taylor Swift, so...
The amount of nonsense that has been coming out of your mouth, it's like sickening. You know Mahomes? Remember Mahomes?
Oh, Jackson Mahomes.
Taylor Swift totally put him on the map.
Well, no. Travis Kelce's one of the best football players in the NFL, but yeah, other than that.
Yeah, he's known as the football man. Taylor Swift's football man.
The football man? Yeah. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, I don't think to be fair, I don't think he was being called the football man before, so, like, he's really good, but no one was being like, he is the football man.
Isn't it crazy that Taylor Swift, like, put that guy Travis Kelce on the map? She blew him up.
She blew him up? What does that even mean?
Like, no one knew who he was before.
What? You're kidding me, right?
No. Him and his friend, Mahomes, that waved to her.
Oh my god.
Like,
Patrick Mahomes? Look, I get it, you're not a sports person, and I get you don't understand how the world works. But Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes
are probably the best quarterback tight end duo in the history of football. In your world, no one knew who they were. He won 2 Super Bowls, and he is literally going to be in the Hall of Fame for being one of the best tight ends ever play this game.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, until Taylor Swift, no one knew who they were.
Jane, I can't even talk to you anymore.
She is like really gonna make his career take off.
Okay.
Everybody is talking about him.
Okay, time out.
She is making
time
him.
out. Don't say another word. I don't want you to say another word.
Okay.
Not another word.
Is
Travis
all-
Kelce has been a huge superstar for a long
I've
long
literally
time.
never heard his name before.
You better not say that about anybody that watches sports. He's gonna blow him up. That dude's been blown up.
He is all over all
Call
social
somebody.
media
Call
right now.
somebody that-
No.
I wish somebody
No.
else knew something about sports. He sounds so stupid. He will be in the Hall of Fame as soon as he retires. 5 years later, he will be a first ballot. He's only like the best tight end that's ever played the entire game of football.
I actually know football players. I've never heard of him.
Call a friend.
Oh God, I hate the long ones. That's oh
Yeah, that's go ahead and mark that for next year's
my
early entry.
favorite long one.
Early entry into next year's Bracket of Sound tournament. There's an update. Every one of those couples divorced.
I love how many guys call their wife bro and dude.
Bro, dude, are you high right now? You know what? You're talking out of your A right now.
Talking out of your A right now.
I thought it was odd Seth Kaiser made it on that. Talking out of your A.
Does he
right?
not cuss?
No, it's just the Minnesota accent.
Oh,
just
okay.
the northern accent there. Talking out of your A right now. I know that I get it. You don't understand football or how the world works.
That one, above all, is probably the biggest death nail.
Yeah,
Of
yes.
all of those ones, that one probably is definitely a divorce or breakup.
They're probably done. I love them. The Kelsey Mahomes.
Yeah,
all right?
Momes. Yeah, Momes.
You sound so stupid right now. Call a friend.
Everything you said from the moment I walked into that, never repeat that.
Oh no,
he was in pain.
So don't say that.
Say that.
He don't say that.
How's
All right, the 2 and the 3 matched up with, or the 2 and the 6, I should say, in the Fat Bear Week. Arizona and Clemson. The 6 seed advanced. The 2 seed is out, and that means this sound has been eliminated.
We got a couple of guys with some length. You know, Giles and Chris, obviously, God gave them appendages that are going to help them do it. But like, even if I'm not mistaken, I think Derek has one this year, and that's just because he gets it up at the right time. George certainly has a great timing for it. Mike Dana has gotten some inside. Right now, it's all about the unit. And there are some packages where we may slip it in there, but the first thing that sticks out is the length. Good God. I mean, what a stud. And then you think you got to have the groin, too. You're not finishing on a guy. There are times when I will talk to the guys, bless you.
That was all about defense, by the way. That was all about defense with Steve Spagnuolo.
I said if Matt Derrick would ask Steve Spagnuolo a question, we could have drops for a year. Just roll on for like a 10-minute interview.
That first part of it was uninterrupted.
I know.
That was just one clip of Steve Spagnuolo. Play the first part, because it is just, this is all
the way through
in about
Karlaftis
20,
and Dana, yeah.
20 seconds straight of Spags that we did not have to piece together or anything. It's just this.
We got a couple of guys with some length. You know, Giles and Chris, obviously, God gave them appendages that are going to help them do it. But like, even if I'm not mistaken, I think Derek has one this year, and that's just because he gets it up at the right time. George certainly has a great timing for it. Mike Dana has gotten some inside. Right now, it's all about the unit.
That was all one continuous clip of 15 seconds. So there you go. The Arizona Wildcats, they are out, and so is that sound. We'll have a Final Four on Monday next time we're on the air, and be eliminating some more teams as well. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back. Now we will change the tune, and we'll talk a little Rawls baseball. They lose 4-1. Cole Reagans looked awesome. The offense did not. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Mick Schaefer hanging out with us, presented by Empower Payments, promising your business savings, or they give you $5,000 cash. Visit empowerpayments.com today to learn more about that. We learned that the Royals are on pace to go 0-162, which is, that sucks.
At one point, they were on pace to have an infinite number of home runs this year.
They were on pace for infinity. They were on pace for sideways H.
Well, for a while there, it's like, oh, man, not going to go 19 straight innings without scoring this year. Offense is back. And
boom.
They did score, but
once. And then the second inning lead off with a double.
Yep.
Like 113 off the bat for MJ.
That was,
wow. Here we go.
Stranding him was bad.
That was rough. I mean, you know what? Looking back, wasn't good. If they had it to do over again, I think they would have preferred to get a run in there.
Bobby Baseball should have had a triple on his double.
Did he?
That could have helped.
They never showed the replay of him running the bases.
Oh, they didn't?
No. So
I think he was blocked. I think Correa blocked him. He couldn't. It probably looked from his angle that Correa had crowded the ball when in fact he was still chasing after it on the ground.
I see.
He would have cruised into third base standing up.
Well, I knew he looked frustrated with himself at second base. I didn't know why. I assumed it was because he could have been at
my
third.
guess is that he was shielded from it and he thought, okay, maybe it bounced up and Correa's got it, and if I go, he's going to turn and fire. When, in fact, he was still chasing after the ball.
You know you have a rough day at the plate when we're, like, individually pointing out different things that could have got somebody to third.
Well, exactly.
Not even scoring. Like, boy, if Renfroe can just get that leadoff double to third.
Velasquez swung at ball 4 for that double play.
Dude,
it was so good. He had taken the first 3 pitches. I'm like, oh, good. He's changed. And
I watched that at bat, and that annoyed me unreasonably. Like, unreasonably annoyed at that one at bat.
You would have had runners on first and second, no outs.
Yeah, I just, like, you don't, it's at your feet. Like, that ball is thrown in. That's a pitch.
I think the one he swung at was just inside, right? It
was like low and inside, and that's why he just pounded it. He killed the grass right in front of the plate and, grounds into a double play. I'm like, come on, dude. But that's what happens when you get, 5 hits in a game, 6 hits in a game, whatever it is. And no, it was only 5 because it was 2 by the top third of the lineup and 2 by the bottom third of the lineup and 1 right in the middle with MJ Melendez. And look, it sucks that, you waste a Cole Reagan start, but he goes out there and has 9 strikeouts, which, by the way, I don't know at what point Vegas will eventually adjust to Cole Reagan strikeouts, because we talked about at the end of the year, I looked forward to Reagan's pitching.
What was the over-under yesterday?
6.5.
Okay, let's go.
I looked forward to Reagan's pitching because every single game, and they never caught up, every game it was take the over. And I think he finished like 5-1. Take the over strikeouts. And then yesterday it was like 6.5. I'm like, okay, he had 4 in a row. He had 4 strikeouts in the second inning. Like, okay, cool, 6.5, sure.
Well, not half his outs were strikeouts, right? 9 out of 18.
Great. I mean, he didn't even get to 100 pitches. Like, he could have gone out there for middle of the season. He might go out there for another inning.
He does, yeah.
But you want to slow play it a little bit, like But
we'll see about that bullpen too.
Yeah,
I was a little shaky.
I was surprised that, it's one of the things that I touched on at the beginning of the show. Like, I was surprised that he went with Nick Anderson, Angel Zerpa, and then Chris Stratton. Yeah. Like, I disagreed with the decision for Zerpa coming out in the 8th, but I'm glad he did it because Zerpa went out there in a high leverage situation and got the job done. So maybe that's some confidence that he can do it. It also let me know that instead of like specific roles of, okay, this is our 8th inning guy, this is a high leverage guy, he said, well, we wanted this guy to bat from the right side. We had lefties coming up. So therefore you're looking at even leverage situations being matchup driven by Quatraro, something to think about, as it goes along.
They probably had a heavy righty lineup in there anyway with Reagan's on the mound.
He had a switch hitter with that they wanted to bat from the right side. So Zerpa comes in. But, they've got 3 different guys that are sort of 1-inning high leverage guys in Schreiber, MacArthur, and Will Smith. And you went 1 inning in a 1-run game, and none of those guys pitched. That was a surprise from Matt Quatraro. Texter pointed out, and I didn't mention in talking about it, but Will Smith was warming up in the 8th. So as Jamie Bloomer would call it,
dry humped.
That's right. So he warmed up in the bottom of the 8th just in case they tied the game or took the lead. But he never got in the game. So We'll see. It is one game. It's 17 plays total in a football game to start the season, as we talked about. 6.5 minutes of NFL football in a 17-game season.
And look, here's the deal. They're playing some really good teams to start out. So it's like that's been the issue these last couple of years, just getting so far behind the 8 ball in March and April and May. And then June. Now, June. But they get better throughout the summer incrementally.
September, they're world beaters.
They are every year.
You get this team to September in contention, and they're going to win it all.
You should just have a calendar in the clubhouse that just says September the whole time. September 29th today, boys.
Set your clocks to September. Yeah. Everybody, all right, 3, 2, 1, mark.
But there's some, they could start out with a losing record this year and be a good team, and the reason could be because they're playing the Twins and the Orioles and the like. Not so much the White Sox, but
9 of the first 13 games are against the Twins, the Orioles, and the Astros. Now, luckily, they mix in 4 games against the White Sox. That
was Chicago Royals.
Yeah, the Kansas City White Sox, the Chicago Royals, the White Sox. That I'm trying to see the numbers for the White Sox and the historic day that they had yesterday. They were the first team. Let me find this here.
Were they the 16-1 game?
No, that was the Rockies to the Diamondbacks. Let's see. They were the first team to have 0 runs, 10 or more strikeouts, 3 or fewer hits, 0 walks on an opening day since like 1960 when Bob Gibson pitched against the team. That's what the White Sox did yesterday against the Tigers. And on the mound for the Tigers was, shockingly, Bob Gibson. It was Tariq Skubal was on the mound for the Tigers, and that's what the White Sox did. They got 3 hit, no walks, 11 strikeouts yesterday in a 1-0 game with the Tigers and White Sox. So it could always be worse, right? But, hey, you look forward to those 4 games against the White Sox. Yeah. But by the end of this 13-game stretch, just find a way to be close to the surface. I'm not saying that, obviously don't drown, but you also don't have to be swimming. Just be close to the surface that you can at least get your head out of the water and breathe. You know what I mean? Obviously, you don't want to be,
win on Saturday, take a breath, right?
Yeah.
And then whatever happens.
Yeah.
Sunday happens, but you
win the next 2 games.
Yeah, that's all you got to do. Just take it 2 to 4 to 6 games at a time.
Win every series, and you will win your division.
You can drop a game per series.
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's what we tell our kids. If you win every inning, you can't lose. It's like, Dad, we won 5 of 6 innings. Yeah, but the inning we lost was 30 runs.
Yeah, they gave up too many.
They give up.
You actually can lose.
They outscored us by 30 in that inning, son. So we did win a lot of innings, but it doesn't count like that. We didn't win 5-1. Doesn't work like that. But had we won that inning, then yes, we would have absolutely won the game. It was a weird feeling yesterday, Mick, because there was a different feel in the air. There was a different level of excitement for what the hope is for this team. But then when the game was over, it sort of felt the same. Sort of felt like, oh, yeah, that's a game that I know. That's the Royals can't get hits, and the bullpen comes up and gives up a couple of runs. And what was a closer game? It's like, oh, they had the pass ball that, and then they had the ball that looked like it bounced off Correa's foot.
It did.
And then they got the double play ball, but it was a slow roller right to Bobby Witt, so they only got the 1 out. And just so an 0-2 pitch is a home run for your ace. Like those things just sort of happen, right? Renfroe hits one into the hole on the left side, and Correa diving stop and throws him out. If that gets through, MJ scores, and now you got another run. It's just unfortunate that those things happened. Just had that same feel after the game, no matter the start.
I think those types of things happen all the time to all teams.
Yeah.
But if you don't have an offense that can provide you a margin for error, right?
That's right.
And you those things stand out, right? And if you mix in a 3-run homer there, scratch across a run, a couple other frames, all of a sudden, like, okay, some bad luck there, but they overcame it with big old bats. So it did feel a lot like years past, and it's just one game. We don't want to overreact.
It's one game.
But yeah, different vibes. I chalked up to Coca-Cola out there now instead of Pepsi, but a lot like it. Once you got done drinking both, like, yeah,
okay,
it tastes the same.
You know what?
Tastes the same.
Now I'm thinking about that. the rally towels and stuff that I got from the World Series, they have Pepsi on them.
They've been Pepsi forever.
Right, yeah. And now I'm thinking, like, the Royals have never won a game with Coke.
Not one.
Maybe their offense could be more on Coke. Get a little lively there. They are defeated. They have never won a game with Coke.
I've never been a bigger Royals fan now that they're affiliated with Coca-Cola and Quick Trip.
You are on board, baby.
Sign me up, baby.
That's right.
Nothing better than a Coca-Cola from a Quick Trip cup.
Yeah, that's right. It's no longer the Royals where it's in the past. Like, was Pepsi okay? No, Jordan Lyles isn't okay.
Yeah.
No, Jordan Lyles is not okay. I want Cole Reagans. I want Coke Reagans. Right? Get him out there.
Who's Dr. Pepper? Because that's what I'm going for if you're offering me Pepsi.
If you're offering me Pepsi, I want Dr. Pepper. It's Grinky.
It's
Grinky. Still fun, still cool. Reminds you of the olden days.
Yes.
It's like the Bluebell ice cream. Dr. Pepper tastes just like the good old days.
But I love it. Was a very kind of a Grinky-esque day for Reagans yesterday. Pounded the strike zone. So many strikes. It's great to see. Great stuff. And like Grinky, I mean, you'll get too much to the plate one of these times. It probably, if you dead, take that pitch back. I mean, it's 0-2 and there's 2 outs, right? But that Grinky gave up homers and he just kept coming after you. And so I'll take a 3 ERA or whatever that equates to, 2 runs through 6 innings every single time with Reagans and all these guys. And even the Royals, I think, if they're only giving up that on a regular basis, would have a winning record.
But Kauffman Stadium second base got the Twins back and injured Royce Lewis coming around second.
Yeah, that stinks because he's had a lot of those injuries.
And he's really good. And
there were like 3 guys in that lineup to where like every swing they took, like, God, it's a good swing. Correa, I mean,
Buxton
still so good.
Okay, Buxton
is still there.
Every swing, it's like, okay, he swung and he didn't
get
fall
hurt.
apart.
Yes,
okay, that's a positive.
But
He's
I mean,
playing center field.
It was like, look at that lineup. I'm like, okay, that is that. And yeah, okay, that I see. That's a division winning lineup.
Yeah.
That's a playoff caliber lineup. A team that can win in the postseason. And maybe the Royals have that, but we just haven't seen it.
Yeah, haven't seen it. And hopefully that happens on Saturday. Here's what I'm looking forward to over the weekend. It's back-to-back days of arguing one way or another with the NCAA and the tournament and how to build a team. Because if Houston and Marquette win tonight, you will have a matchup on Sunday of Houston and Marquette with a lot of homegrown players, high school kids, been around the program for a long time, freshmen and moving on into sophomores and juniors. And in the UConn and Illinois game, 3 of the top 6 players for UConn are transfers, and 4 of the top 7 for Illinois are transfers. So even if you throw in the 7th player for UConn, each team's top 7, you've got 7 players that are transfers out of those 14. So you'll have the UConn and Illinois transfers. These guys, Cam Spencer, look what he's done for UConn, coming in and helping out. Terrence Shannon, Texas Tech, look what he's done for Illinois. And then you go to Houston and Marquette, and it's like, see, this is how you do it. You got to get the freshmen and let them grow.
Come up together, yes, all that. It's so funny. You're exactly right. We'll argue all about that. But in the end, I mean, sometimes teams just lose, right? It doesn't matter what their analytics were in the regular season, what their record was, how they were doing heading into the. Sometimes teams just lose. They got to have a winner and a loser, and here's you want the truth? There's no formula. There's zero formula.
Have good
right?
players.
What's better, a Tony Dungy type coach or a Bill Belichick? Doesn't matter. No. They have good players. Both can win, right? Players, coaches can win. A-holes can win. There's no formula.
Also, one of UConn's best players that shoots 45% from 3. This is his 3rd team he's played on for UConn. He played at Loyola, Rutgers, and now UConn. So apparently that guy just it was too tough for him.
It
was too
so
tough.
Funny.
The guy's shooting 45% from 3 and just can't find an opportunity. Yeah. No, he found opportunities. He wanted to go and win a national championship. He went from Loyola, balled out, went to Rutgers, was awesome, and now he's at UConn with a chance to win a national title.
There's so many of these teams that I'm really seeing for the first time because thanks to the Chiefs, I don't get into college basketball till mid-February now. And
it's called Valentine's Day,
almost on
start of college.
Every one of these games, there's a guy on one of the teams where like, wait, okay, I know that name. How do I know? Lampkin, okay, yeah, TCU.
Here we go, all right.
Tyon Grant Foss. Oh, yeah, KU, he's a and you're like, they're in new uniforms, and I'm getting old, but I remember there's a little bit of a spark there. I remember the names, and Terrence Shannon. There we go.
Texas Tech. That's right, Texas Tech. And you know what?
Face, new place.
And it must be tough for Iowa State. Iowa State fans, big Brock Purdy fans, that they have a former Texas Tech player that ends their season.
Oh, boy. It's true.
Right?
Thought about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Those Texas Tech people can't get past those Red Raiders. We'll take a time out, come back. We got cuts coming up next. Soren Petro, Curtis Siebel, Chicky and Pete's, they'll be hanging out there. We got college basketball coming your way tonight. I understand why CBS chose the games that they chose for tonight, being NC State Marquette, because the second game in that region is Duke and Houston.
Yeah.
So I understand why that is, but I feel like Gonzaga, Purdue, and Creighton, Tennessee are the better, more exciting matchups if you can only have those two or the NC State Marquette. It's mainly NC State Marquette that, to me, that's bringing it down.
I had looked because we don't have to worry anymore about it.
That's right.
Wasn't that long ago when it was just on CBS.
Yep.
And you hopefully you were in the local footprint. They would have your game. But if you weren't, you had to just rely
Watch those
on
scores on the
updates. Yep.
scores at the top. The scores at the top.
Didn't always have the scores at
that's
the
true.
top either.
They didn't always have the scores at the bottom either for the game you were watching.
Nope.
That's crazy going back and seeing some games on YouTube. It's like, what's the score of
NBC
this?
was the last holdout on that because their logic was like, I know, right? Like, why would I want them to turn the channel? They see the score, they'll turn away. Yeah, actually they won't.
Yeah, no, that's what if it's a good game? All right, let's get the cuts going here. What took place this week, and if there are any, I don't know, early entries into the bracket of sound for next year. Take it away, Dylan.
Let's talk to Mike McFarland.
Mac!
Congratulations, Grandpa.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, 4 granddaughters. My boys need to find some pop in their back.
Wow.
Is that all
That's
it takes?
pretty good.
They pop in their bat to have a boy, apparently. Thanks, Mac.
There's a...
I can't say
it. Keep going.
He went to the barber and asked, "Can I get the Pat?"
So
Mahomes?
Pat had it first, and then he went.
We don't know
to the
exactly who
barber.
had it first, but we know that he's
Garrett
changed
Dieter.
his hairstyle now after being ridiculed for a couple years.
You know who had it first. Who had it first?
Yeah, you guys are so dumb.
Oh, wow. Hey. Happy opening day, Kansas City.
Who was that?
Garrett Dieter.
Yeah.
But turns out Dieter had it before Patrick Mahomes got here. Dieter, they have
There's
photos and
photographic
everything.
proof of him at Alabama, Bowling Green.
Yep.
Yeah, no,
Having
I
that
remember when
haircut.
he got here, we went down that road.
Yeah, he's not happy if you tell him that he got his haircut to match Patrick Mahomes, as you can tell right there. Keep going, Dylan.
Jake, get ready.
Okay.
I'll read it. Just pull
Yeah,
it
we
up.
already had to drop him once.
There's no drop.
We're
It's
not
reading the man's
we're
name.
reading the name, buddy. Yeah, by the way, Gary is going to
can't
read
be-
it.
I'll
I'll
read
read
it.
it. Everybody relax. Oh, yeah, Scott. See what I'm saying?
It's the,
That's his name.
KU offensive line coach, Scott,
Yeah.
I believe it's Fuch. And Gary just said, you know what? Hey, Scott, what does Scott do?
I've seen that pronounced a couple ways.
Yeah.
Fuchs.
I don't-
Or Fox. Or
Fuchs.
pronounced- Fuchs?
Yeah.
Fox.
Dylan, anything else before we...
Coming up here in about a week is my 20th anniversary here. And
So have you heard about the big party they're going to have?
I have not. I've only gotten one birthday greeting in the 20 years I've been here through the company email. I doubt there's a party.
So dry.
So great. Got one birthday greeting in 20 years, so doubt there's a party for my 20th. You know what? Happy 20th anniversary, Curtis,
Yeah.
beforehand.
Yeah.
You know, an early 20-year anniversary. Happy anniversary. Hey, Mick, good to see you.
Thank you. Happy anniversary, Mick.